Good evening and welcome to OPC Season 2. I'm Kevin AVRL Walker. Joined with me this evening is Matt Pixie Carroll as we're bringing you more Week 6 action just ahead of the end of the regular season.
And we've got some pretty solid matches coming up today. To be honest, the whole weekend is just really great matches because everything gets decided and we've got a lot of these top 4-5 teams playing each other, specifically starting off with Blank versus Ardeont. And of course, Flash Wolves going to be playing Mega, who so far have managed to play spoiler to AHQ, so maybe they'll have a repeat performance. And then rounding that off is a massive rival match between Hong Kong Attitude and AHQ Esports Club.
So we have a really interesting, I guess, power balance right now between teams ranked 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and that's reflected in the standings here. This is why this part of the tournament is now so important. We don't yet know who exactly is making it into that top 4.
And that's the thing, like, that's why I say, you know, Mega may be playing spoiler to Flash Wolves. It kind of disturbs that balance of power just a little bit. You've even got situations where, like, if Blank do pull out a really huge performance tonight and take down Ardeont, that probably secures them into top 4 and would potentially lock out AHQ no matter how good their match against Hong Kong Attitude goes. Plus, there's just that notion at the very end there of, will AHQ finally overcome Hong Kong Attitude now that they are themselves looking resurgent?
Yeah, Blank had an interesting match last night as well, where they went down 0-3 to Flash Wolves. Now, though, they come up today against Ardeont in our very first match. That's the one I want to talk about to start things off.
Yeah, and it's arguably the toughest matchup for Blank, indeed for anyone, to play against Ardeont. And like you said, Blank last night going down 0-3 to Flash Wolves in a bit of an unfortunate series for themselves, so kind of need to step it up tonight.
And this is going to be an even more difficult game for them. Ardeont so far are still undefeated. They've only dropped 1 match, 0 matches so far, sitting nice and pretty at the top of the table. Blank are not just looking for seeding into the playoffs, but they're looking for preferential seeding where they avoid 4th place if possible, so they don't have to face Ardeont immediately in playoffs.
And that's actually quite a significant thing here. It is still very possible for all 3 of those teams ranked 3rd, 4th, 5th to make playoffs. It's also possible for them to all make 3rd.
Right, got a few words from both sides before we get in.
Intense match yesterday against Flash Wolves, and we're looking forward to putting on a great show for everybody that's decided to show up today.
他说他们昨天跟闪亮来了一个精彩的对决，那今天一样会带给大家精彩的比赛。
어제 경기 내용에 만족하지 못하기 때문에 오늘 제대로 보여드리겠습니다.
虽然他们目前是没有输过，但他说他觉得昨天比赛他们没有非常的理想，但他们今天一样会全力以赴。那么这比赛结果会如何？马上把画面交给我们专业的主播赛评喽。
So a couple of thoughts there from Animo, the captain and shot caller of the Ardeont side there, who kind of, I would say, mirroring our thoughts about their performance yesterday, which wasn't that Ardeont they didn't look bad or anything, but AHQ certainly made it close.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, Ardeont didn't really look any different to normal, all things considered. And it was a 3-0, but I mean, we've had a lot of situations where the scoreline has kind of belied the closeness of the series. And I think no match has actually been indicative of that as much as the AHQ versus Ardeont one. First of all, because of the disparity in the terms of the overall placement of these 2 teams, it's the 1st place team versus the 5th place team, but also in terms of AHQ's recent resurgence, it kind of speaks to their own improvement as a team, their ability to take down Flash Wolves in this round robin, which they've previously done. You've just got this situation where Ardeont now, as they start to reach playoffs, as they start to kind of run down the home stretch, teams are really starting to catch up to them. And that's the thing, the pressure on Ardeont now is to stay ahead of the pack. And if anything, if you're going to start dropping games to these teams, you almost want it to happen before playoffs, because nothing would sting more than leading the pack the whole tournament long and then finally crumbling in the grand final.
Yeah, you'd want to be identifying these problems now instead of later, and certainly if the preferential thing here would be to not have those issues at all, to not even be in a situation where you're risking a loss. So for a team like Ardeont, their goal is to finish the regular season completely undefeated and then go into the playoffs and come out the 1st place team. So they're still looking like that team that can achieve that, because most interestingly, Ardeont, despite having some close matchups, losing a map to Flash Wolves, having close runs against AHQ yesterday, they've been consistently winning.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got to be honest on the other side of this as well. I mean, just in a way, you actually don't expect Blank to give Ardeont as much of a challenge, just even on paper, compared to AHQ. And a part of that is just the relative performances of Blank in this round robin. I mean, they went 0-3 down to Flash Wolves. AHQ beat Flash Wolves. You just look at those other relative metrics, and as much as Blank haven't directly played AHQ yet, they won't actually play until tomorrow. Yep. You still feel like between those two teams, this is actually the weaker one right now. It's just that they happen to technically be in that top 4 in the standings.
Right, let's take a look at the teams now. Have a meet of them, and Blank Esports first up here. First talking point about this team that I want to bring up is in their match against Flash Wolves, a couple of things are quite apparent. Haru on the Xayah was very effective, particularly on King's Row. Then you have a case where we're still trying to find a good hero for us. So far on the Genji, still been a bit hit and miss. Had some success on the Soldier, and it's been a bit of an interesting journey. Eat-Up on the offense, on the Tracer side, has still been a rock for this team. They can always rely on this guy, whether he's on Tracer, whether he's on Widowmaker.
And I think Identity is a good way to put that there. They've just kind of struggled to find exactly where Huss sits in that DPS role, and therefore what the team is able to run around that. And on the whole, they just haven't quite got as much mileage out of him yet as they have out of their other pickup, Huwoo. On the flip side of that, though, got to take a look at Ardeont, of course. Came in from Korea, very, very quickly looking dominant. The entire squad, every single one of the members of Ardeont being extremely strong in their own right. And they had some pickups after qualifying as well. They picked up people just kind of out of nowhere, players like Republic that just kind of came into the mix here, coming in alongside some of the ex-Mighty AOD members from Apex Season 3. And on the whole, it's just created this absolute dynamite squad that has gone largely unchallenged throughout OPC. I say largely because, of course, it has been that they have started to get challenged more recently. Now, all things considered, Blank are actually a team that knows exactly what that feels like. That's what happened to them during the sort of mid-part of Season 1. They kind of know how to exploit weaknesses purely because they've had their own weaknesses exploited in the past as well.
Yeah, and on the Ardeont side as well, it's kind of difficult to highlight anyone in particular, but I guess the person I want to talk about is DM, who got the player of the game in yesterday's matchup against AHQ. And this is someone on the Tracer side so far that has been able to successfully either A, pressure out supports in a 1v2 situation, or even better, actually get those kills himself, and again, in a 1v2 situation. So he's consistently had that pressure against teams, and Blank's going to feel that today.
They are going to feel that, but this guy on your screens right now, I Eat You Up, is going to be equally exerting that pressure back onto the side of Ardeont, or certainly you would hope. So that has been really one of the shining factors of Blank still. I mean, you can talk about their relative performance compared to some of these other teams in the top 5 right now, and you can maybe question where they'll end up finishing the season. But you got to admit, there are perfectly good reasons why they are in the top 4, and that's because they've currently got more wins than AHQ, who are in 5th place, and that hasn't been an act of random chance, right? It has been well earned and hard fought and well deserved.
And the other thing that, you know, one of the reasons why you got to be bringing in the conversation about DM, and it says for Eat-Up there, DM2E, so we'll have to see exactly how Eat-Up does against him, because something that may very well happen for this team is what we saw in terms of weaknesses against Flash Wolves yesterday, where Gumba and RQT were consistently picked up, especially Gumba on the Zingara role. So that was definitely hurting the team, especially on the control, especially on the Ilios. So now going up against Ardeont, where we have this DM, the DM Tracer, and not only that, but the pressure coming up from Erster as well, Republic and the whole team, I feel like everything that was a problem in the Flash Wolves matchup gets amplified.
I never thought Trill had a particularly big forehead. I don't know. It's kind of interesting that that is his reflection of himself. Taking a look now, though, of course, at Ardeont, because if you're going to bring attention to Huwoo, you've actually got to bring equal attention to Michelle here, who plays the same role within the team, plays the exact same heroes as well, depending on whether they're running a more dive comp or a more shield comp, and is so often an absolute backbone for these guys, is a huge swinging factor. Early on in the season, we were talking a lot more about DM, Erster, and Republic, and I think it's still fair to bring those players up, but the reality is actually now, most teams' DPS and Winston trio are kind of hitting those same beats for the most part. It's not this like out-and-out strength of Ardeont that's just leaps and bounds in front of everyone else. It's still ahead of everyone else, But for the most part, other teams have kind of tidied that part up. So actually now the point of difference has started to be more players like Michelle and even their backliners, because if you want to compare these two teams, you look at how often Jeff and Animo are dying compared to how often Gunba and RQT are dying. There's a huge disparity there. And it is to do with the team as a whole. It isn't just the supports, you know, it's not just their fault or anything like that, but it's just one of those other areas where Ardeont is still just that extra bit ahead of the pack right now.
And that's why it's good that you actually brought up Michelle in this direct comparison, because you have to look at the possibility of going to Kings Row. That's the map where both teams in the past have come up with the either Junkrat or Winston Zaya compositions rather, and that's when we did see Michelle bring it out really big on his own Zaya against AHQ. One of the key factors for that Ardeont victory on that map, and then also on the flip side for Huwu, again one of the key factors for them.
So this is an interesting one. Blank, of course, do have the home side, going to be taking it over to Ilios, and I mean, this is unsurprising in a way. This is still Blank's specialty, as it were, on what we've always considered to be their strongest map mode, but we are actually more recently starting to question that as well. Not that it isn't their strongest map mode, mind you, but it doesn't seem to be one where they're just ahead of the pack anymore. Sometimes they're winning it, sometimes they're losing it, and that includes Ilios now with them actually losing it last night to Flash Wolves. So on the Blank side of things here, I think this is a good pick, but we do need to see tidier play than what we saw last night.
And the other thing to sort of mention here is they're picking Ilios the same way AHQ picked Ilios into Ardeont. Now that didn't really favor AHQ in many ways. When you look at the Blank squad, though, they didn't have a lot of success on this map against Flash Wolves either. So it's going to be interesting tonight, and you would expect some of the weaknesses coming up from the Blank side do get reflected once again and then amplified, because this is, of course, Ardeont.
And it was interesting, actually, that AHQ performance on Ilios, because we kind of spoke quite frankly about it, how they played Ruins and how they played well in particular. And we sort of went, you know, it was a series of questions. And if the answer to one was yes, you then had to ask the next question. But the moment the answer was no, that was it. They were going to be done. And that's eventually what happened. It was, can Dizzy's Widowmaker and the team as a whole execute on Ruins and pull out the map win there? Answer was yes. Okay. Does that now translate to the gameplay on Well? And the answer was no. And from there, they failed to pick up Lighthouse as well, and then they failed to pick up any other maps. And you sort of felt like, had it been continual yeses throughout that, we would have been in a situation where you're going, well, can they win it on Hybrid now? Well, maybe they can. Can they win it on Assault after that? Well, maybe they can. But that didn't come to fruition. And you've got to expect the same may just happen to Blank here. This is going to be the real proof in the pudding moment.
The other thing is, we're not directly going to Ruins yet. Ruins is where Blank have typically had their best successes. Going to start things out on Well, if I'm not mistaken here from what we just noticed. So that's going to bring out Huss and Gunba on this Pharmacy combo. We've already seen AHQ trying the Pharmacy combo against Ardeont. Now Ardeont are going to stick to Tracer Genji, and they make it work even against the Pharmacy, even against a composition that on paper is meant to be stronger.
And this is exactly what AHQ did yesterday as well. So AHQ, as it is, has been really good on this Pharah Mercy, on Well in particular. So we'll have to see if Blank is somehow able to kind of step it above that level, but Trill's going to be the first casualty of the fight already. Good pressure from Huss onto these members on the side here, but Ardeont aren't really crumbling. They're just kind of weathering it and finding these picks out of the side. Now Huwu going to go down, and Blank without these tanks here may just have to take that one on the chin. They do get Erster, but that's not going to be enough to keep them in this fight as Ardeont get the cap.
And all that means is it's a consolation prize for Huss at the end of the day. It's not good enough to get Blank Esports anything in terms of actual progress. You notice that actually, because Trill went down earlier, he wasn't alive to enable the extra damage for someone like Huss. So despite the fact that Huss actually got some good range and got some good rockets down on the side of Ardeont, no one was there to follow up.
You do have to ask how they get on the point now as well. Oh, the pressure out of these guys is just too immense. Republic happy to pop the Primal Rage to preserve his life there because they have a numbers advantage in this fight. They are confident they can convert, and they do so. Blank only losing 2 before backing off, so it's not going to be a complete rout, at least not for now. Still not really finding any headway either.
And you're about to head into the ultimate game now as well for Ardeont. 1 ultimate down. Republic already used the Primal Rage, but everyone else is now coming up. The big one has to be Jeff with the Transcendence, and Ursa's going to be dealing anti-air damage with that Genji Dragon Blade as well. So he's going to be playing the guy that's going to end up dealing with Huss, but he actually goes down early. So
yeah, it's not big opening pick actually for Eat You Up, and with this Rocket Barrage, nice swallow up by Huwu there as well to catch that Pulse Bomb. They've got a window to convert, and they do actually need to take advantage of it. It's going to be the Sound Barrier out from RQT to do so. They've committed a lot of ults here finally starting to convert a couple more, but Ardeont, they'll be happy to fight this one out, I guarantee you. Having popped the Transcendence, Ursta's going to be coming in with the Dragon Blade. Captors go over, and actually the pressure out on Michelle seems like it's going to be just enough to kind of ward off Ardeont here.
That was a well-earned fight for Blank Esports. They didn't have to, they didn't have to spend too much there. One good pulse bomb kill from Eat Up onto Animo was really important. That goes through the Transcendence, even though Jeff already used the ultimate. Animo goes down, doesn't manage to have a sound barrier in time, but now Ursa's going to try and turn things around for his own team.
Yeah, IQT kind of having to turn tail and run. He does actually waste a lot of Ursta's time, which may just be a saving grace given that he did go down. Blank, though, they still need to find a way to get into this fight because IQT is well out of res range. Trilla's popped the Primal Rage and the pressure's still coming out from Ardeont. Blank haven't actually got any kills just yet. The self-destruct from Huwu gives them a bit of space to play with. Does force out Michelle's own self-destruct, but that's actually going to get kills. And on Gunba too, which means no res available now as Eat You Up goes down to his counterpart. And this is starting to look like close out for Ardeont. Blank getting not too shabby an amount of time on the point, but unfortunately not getting up the follow-up fight win to extend it into a lead.
And DM killing Gumba there was probably the most important kill. This is when you expect the res to be quite impactful, but unfortunately for Blank Esports, they're not really keeping the right members alive at the right time. Everyone else going down is fine as long as Gumba stays alive. The opposite happening, that's going to be a fight loss for Blank. And now suddenly Ardeont putting the pressure on, about to threaten the overtime.
And of course, without getting counter trades, you don't have a res into a numbers advantage. They need to find their way out of this building now. Get onto the point, get those key picks, and Eat You Up going Hunter Killer on the back line. Good stick onto Jeff. Runs it into Animo despite having the Transcendence running. They can only save him, can't save his fellow support there. And that's just the opening they need. Transcendence now out of the picture. RQT does go down, but that's the rocket barrage they've been after. And they're happy to take the tempo res on RQT as well to keep these tanks topped off. Michelle getting forced back. 99% for Ardeont, but Blank, very good fight win there.
This is going to be a fight that Ardeont can decide to give away to Blank if they want to. They've got a decent lead now. Can't get too complacent. There's about 40% left until Blank really threaten their own overtime. They can come in with this big Dragon Blade, and that's when you really got to expect big things to happen. RQT has to immediately counter with Sound Barrier because there's no res.
The one thing that could kind of save them is if Huwu places his self-destruct well, it won't be safe for Ursta to actually get into the air to contest the Pharaoh, odd as that may be. But he's not even going to let himself fall prey to that. Trill has to pop the Primal Rage there, but actually Ursta well pressured out. Good deflect, and he is looking to get away with his life. Pretty significant there, but it has wasted a lot of time. And that's time that Blank have spent putting the pressure on these other members. Keeping Republic topped off, though, is the saving grace here, and the Sound Barrier going to save them. Nice stick. Oh, gets eaten at the last second, but it's still the kills coming through the way of Ardeont. No ultimates just yet for Blank. Despite the self-destruct getting the one, now they've just got to wait. The Pulse Bomb has to convert something, and indeed it does. That's what they're after here, and they've got Rocket Barrage to close it out. Still got a res as well if they need to commit, and they don't actually even need to. Huwu, able to respawn, can come back into the fight. The Rocket Barrage securing Michelle. Blank are actually ahead in this one unequivocally. They've still got the res as well. Ursta pressured out. Ardeont starting to trickle onto the point. I don't think I've ever seen that out of them before. They just can't seem to make their own headway in this fight, and I've never seen them in this situation. This is something new. This is something else, and this is Blank about to be 1-0 up on Ilios.
It's the first time for everything, and Blank are about to get this one in the bag. Still got their res. They're just still so stocked up. Never say never, though, because for Ardeont, they're going to try and fight this right down to the last member if they can. Now the Transcendence finally runs out for Jet.
And they get Michelle down. He's the only one left on the point there. And again, Ardeont not quite able to capitalize on that one last-ditch window they had in the Transcendence. I've seen so many teams fall down when Ardeont have just that one ultimate and the right members up at the right time. Blank, however, different story.
I think Blank just proved a point here because at no situation in the game did you think, okay, well, this is 100% over for Blank. They always managed to keep themselves back in the game. Eat Up did a great job on one of those middle fights here. He got an opening pick onto, I can't even remember the player, got to, but landed the Pulse Bomb onto Animo's second, and that was what really opened that fight up. Made a couple of ultimates being blown on the Ardeont side, as well as then giving that fight over for Blank. And then in subsequent fights, despite Gumba going down in that little bit of a blunder again in the middle, at the end, when it really counted for Blank, they found the right combinations, res was still kept, and they just got this massive player advantage.
And now Blank kind of get to play their greatest hits as well, coming out with Gunba on the Sombra, Eat You Up on the Widowmaker. Ardeont not going to contest it. They're going to stick to their own guns as well, but it didn't work for them against AHQ. Heck, it didn't even work for them against Mega, so can Blank do that too?
Ardeont should be expecting this now. They've had a lot of experience on Ilios and on Ruin specifically against Widowmaker teams. They've bested Dizzy and his team. Now can they do it against Blank?
That was a nice wraparound by Eat You Up as well, as Ardeont were trying to pressure him out of his usual position, and Blank are going to take advantage of this. Already getting Republic. They're now kind of happy to just take this fight. They've got the health pack control as well, and Ardeont are a little split up here. Blank having a bit of a hard time closing out the kills initially, but they should be able to eventually get enough pressure down. That's a good one on Erster. They're still getting the pressure onto Michelle on the point. That's going to be the closeout. Looking to route out Jeff as well. Finally getting the finish off on that. That took a little bit longer than was maybe comfortable. Republic has actually re-entered the fight. Gunba may need to commit an EMP to secure it. Husk going down. Yeah, it's a little bit unsafe for him now. And this is a little bit rough. They do get the point cap in here, but Ardeont just kind of keeping it alive long enough, not going down when their members were scattered. EMP goes out onto DM, but who has lost his mech? There's just no one to follow it up, and Blank, they are going to lose this point over to Ardeont, it seems.
Well, Blank is still just trying to hold on for as long as they can, but you would expect Ardeont to be able to cap this one over at any stage now. Double kill. This might actually open things back up for Blank Esports, who do now have respawn.
It exactly does, and who got demexed, but he didn't actually go down, so he didn't have to wait for the respawn. The rest of Blank members did respawn, and Ardeont was still actually scattered. They hadn't quite regrouped the positioning as much as they kept the fight alive for that long. Blank really tiny to not let Ardeont get the better of them there.
That was a really long extended fight, which Ardeont threw a lot of members into. They actually backed out, gave the cap away in that initial fight, but they never got that cap back. Blank Esports just held on to the EMP, ended up being worth it. Gave IEU up some space, he got himself a triple kill, and now Blank well in control.
Don't get too excited though, because Ardeont are never down, never out. Not once, not now, not ever. And already getting the kill onto Eat You Up is exactly what they're after. Erster though, struggling to find much more than that with the Dragon Blade, and Husk putting on a ton of pressure. Trill got the point on lockdown as well. Only casualty so far is RQT, actually losing Gunman now to the Primal Rage, but they've still got plenty of legs in this fight. Self-destruct creates a bit of space. Good stick though onto Huwoo's mech. It's going to be able to take a ton of damage off the back of that. Does take Animo down with him, and Huwoo's still not been demexed yet. Blank are actually very much able to push this out past that 80%, maybe even past the 90%. Not quite looking like it'll get that far, but it is going to get very close to being a full cap out. Ardeont only just getting time on the point now.
You're even seeing a situation where Ardeont are overcommitting to this one. Jeff uses Transcendence right at the end, even though there were only 3 or even less than 3 Blank members surviving. A couple of them were respawners as well. Now Blank have this huge progress lead that they have against Ardeont. We've already seen how other teams have played this against Ardeont. Mega won in this situation, and you would expect Blank, they may just win as well. If they do, they're taking Ilios off of Ardeont.
I mean, maybe just, it feels possible, right? Gunba, nice commit on the EMP, instant follow-up. Huwoo pulling the weight, and they get Michelle as well. This has got to be one of the quickest conversions I've ever seen anyone pull off against Ardeont. Erster does get one just for kind of redemption's sake, I suppose, but Blank, they've got the point back in their control, getting close to some key ultimates as well.
And that's the problem for Ardeont, because they're not close to their own key ultimates. The only thing they can really rely on here is when Republic gets his Primal Rage. Jeff is a little bit close to his Transcendence, but he might just go down, and down he goes!
What a headshot from Eat You Up, and that could be the saving grace. He was dead at the start of the fight. They do lose Gunba though, and Trill is still just coming back from the respawn, so Eat You Up does need to get a lot more than just the 1 kill on Jeff. He's going to be able to get away from Republic, who is very deep in the fight actually. That does give Blank a window, but they're struggling to convert on said window. Again, looks like the fight's going to go back the way of Ardeont, but now we've got to say it's actually Blank who are down but not out.
Yeah, good damage control by Ardeont there, despite losing Jeff rather early. Republic with the Primal Rage, kind of wasting his own time, but also wasting Eat Up's time. They just take each other out of the fight in that situation, and the remaining 4 versus 5, Ardeont won that.
Now Ardeont know they have to keep clear of these sightlines. Just a few headshots could swing it, but they've got a ton of ultimates coming up, and that could really be all they need to secure this one.
And Blank Esports, all they may really need is to get 1 good EMP on both supports, cancel both support outs, so prevent them from even using it. That's going to be the fight win for Blank. Otherwise, you can expect a double overtime for both sides.
Well, there's the commit on the Transcendence, and Gunba still not going in with the EMP, now going forward. They need to get that convert off though. Ultimate out of Huwoo, just not finding anything yet, and Erster's the one getting him, getting 3 for his trouble. And this is actually now a disastrous position for Blank, because they did commit what few ultimates they had. Ardeont did 2, but Blank now on the back foot with just 1 chance left here.
Now that is an issue for Blank, because both teams did go all in there. Michelle still actually keeps a self-destruct. It's a small thing, but it may just make the difference. And for Ardeont, because they're in control of the camp itself, Blank have to be the one to make the move here, and they're running out of time to get anything done.
Speaking of ultimates though, Huss with that pulse bomb could also be all that Blank need here. A good land on that will really set the tone for this. Trying to get in on Erster, haven't quite got the closeout. Now, Chill, too deep, goes down. Good trade back though onto Erster. They need to get more done than just that though. Trying to get Republic out of the mix, and they do. RQT finally going down though, and they're still just running even. Each up, not getting those picks. Huss goes down to Jeff. Jeff, no one can really follow up on him just yet. Now in Blank, they don't have members on this point. Eat You Up, they just have to touch it. It's going to be here, yeah, going onto the point, but there's only so long a Widowmaker can last on that. 99 to 99, it may look good, but it is Ardeont in the driver's seat as we round this one out. And despite the massive lead, like I said, Ardeont, you can never count them out. And now 1-1, it's match point both ways.
And once again, both teams just keeping it extremely competitive here. I mean, Ardeont just on the edge of your seats. Erster brought it back alive for this team. The triple kill on the Dragon Blade and the second to last fight. That could have been the winning fight for Blank. They had the EMP engaged. Unfortunately, didn't catch either of the supports. So you had a situation where Jeff got his Transcendence out and was able to use the sound barrier as well. And suddenly, Ardeont are unkillable.
This is now a little bit rough for Blank. I mean, like I said, don't get too excited, as it were, because, you know, the 1-0 up is something, and they look good on Ruins, but it's all about closing it out when it matters. And Ardeont, they kind of keep it alive for themselves. Now it's just going to be a straight decider on Lighthouse.
The 88% to 0 lead as well. That's really disappointing to not see Blank do it. But now they get to redeem themselves, as you said, now under Lighthouse. Now that we're on a new stage of Ilios, can they make this pharmacy work again?
And that's the thing, they do get to go back onto the pharmacy. Huss has really done a lot of work on that, at least on Well, so we'll have to see if there is that repeat performance now, because you can see Ardeont getting very pressured, but Trill getting equally pressured. Oh, good catch onto Jeff, who was trying to stay safe. Oh, good. Erster, though, able to stay alive. Nearly went off the edge. Ardeont trading one back, but they haven't quite got the closeouts on these tank members here, who are the ones actually keeping the point on lockdown, who are the ones allowing Erster and DM to do the work, even as Erster has now gone down. Ardeont control the ground here. It's just each up contesting the point. There's only so much Huss can do. He wants to fight outside. He doesn't want to go onto the point. It's not safe for him. Now he's kind of got no choice, though, having to get back outside to stay safe. Nice shot on Animo, and that may just be the one that secures it, because now Republic kind of jumping onto this one, finds himself a little surrounded by Blank. Huss still wants to get back out of here, but with him going on, the risk paid off, and it is Blank in control of the point.
And this is the problem with Ardeont running Tracer Genji into a pharmacy combo. They can't actually successfully deal with Huss. Their only real game plan here is to kill the other 4 members of Blank Esports, then deal with the pharmacy later. The problem with that is Huss was able to get so much damage on, he was able to actually pick up kills. This isn't something Dizzy and AHQ were able to do yesterday, and that's why Blank are winning now.
Very protracted fight, though, which has given both teams a chance to charge up the ultimates. Blank, with that res, may just have the swing ultimate in the mix. Erster already looking for something with the Dragon Blade. Gunba is the first casualty. That is the ideal first casualty. They get the closeout on RQT on the backside of that one as well, and Huss going down. Ardeont, 1 ultimate for all that return. You'd be happy to take that. Blank, though, again, still not out of the mix. They do have to commit the Pulse Bomb, but so far that and the Primal Rage has been all they've committed. Willing to commit more on top of that as well, now that the Transcendence has come out. And a fight win here would actually be good news because of how much they've drawn out of Ardeont now. They're still largely in control. Rez to come in, bringing Eat You Up back into the mix, but they do lose Huwu's mech in that. Huss is the rocket barrage, but he just doesn't have a good angle to commit it. Desperately trying to find it now. Is DM able to retreat back to safety? RQT going down, and Huwu not going to be able to get back into the mech. Ardeont still kind of a little bit ahead in this fight as Huss getting onto the point. It's the danger zone for him, and it does not pay off this time. He goes down. These trade kills may just not be enough for Blank, but 66%, nothing to balk at.
And once again, it's Erster. He's the one that opens up the plays. He's the anti-air Genji in this composition. He's able to take down Gumba, nearly takes down Huss. Teammate Michelle actually finishes off Huss for him. And because Gumba went down first, he got a late raise only on 1 target that was Eat You Up, and that's fine. But as soon as that happened, then RQT went down. He doesn't get to use the sound barrier, and everything snowballs out of control. Ardeont take that one quite comfortably.
That was really nicely timed. The rocket on Erster while the biofield was down allowed him to convert on Jeff. Instant conversion as well with that rocket barrage. Michelle can only block up so much of that, and that is a quick fire back from Blank, who, by the way, capped the point before the fight had even finished. So now Ardeont can't even try and stall that cap out.
This is good aggression from Blank as well. Now that Ursa's actually moved on to the Soldier, and actually Ursa's done a great job in terms of damage, despite only recently being on the Soldier. Now 77% ultimate charged already. So Blank though, they're suppressing him. If they can suppress Ursa more, then that's going to give Huss more room to breathe as well.
Huss dying was a little inopportune for them though, because now Ursa does get to set himself up, has the tac visor as well. Early sound barrier out of Animo, they really are getting quite hard pressured in here. Trill able to retreat, they've got the catch on DM. This is that tactical visor, and it gets Gunba. That's crucial, was getting close to that res, but Blank still got legs in this fight for sure, as Ardeont now only just getting to the point itself. Huwu does have a self-destruct to commit, and I imagine he will do so. There it goes out from him now, and he's able to retreat off that one. Gunba getting back in the fight. Huwu will not get back in the mech, but the self-destruct has got the work done anyway, allows Ichu up to go off, and now it's just Republic getting angry on the point, but he's not actually converting enough, and Gunba, he has nearly got that res, wants to commit it if he can find these members, needs to at least get Huss back in this one. May just want to take that one on the chin, actually.
Yeah, it's all a Blank Esports going to give that one over to Ardeont. We talk about the fact that Ardeont now have the chance to set up. That's exactly what Ursa wants to be able to do. That could have still gone either way. Had Gunba come in a little bit earlier, or had he got the res a little bit earlier, may have seen a big res play, may have just seen Blank close out the map right now. But Ardeont, they're at a deficit, but they're definitely not out.
Ardeont aren't set up on the point, and now honestly Blank are going to make the same move again. They now force Ardeont onto the point. Good pulse bomb out. They get Republic early before Transcendence or anything can save him. Now Jeff committing the Transcendence. They're trying to get Trill out of the picture. Go 1 for 1, but Eat You Up is all over this one. He's got Ursa. Trill goes down, but they've got to factor in that res. There it goes out into Trill, and no Transcendence out of Jeff anymore. They've just got to get Michelle's mech here. He will be able to commit a self-destruct, but everyone should be able to be safe from it. Indeed they can. Cap back over. It's 99 now. Ardeont, they've got to find a way back in. Huwu does go down, but Republic isn't going to get on the point. The Rocket Barrage going to zone the rest off. No one can touch it, and they've done it. The second team this tournament to take a single map off Ardeont is going to be Blank Esports. That is the kind of start you want.
And RQT and the rest of his squad is so happy about that one, and they should be. Well-deserved and extremely well-earned. This was a completely unexpected result from the Blank side. After losing this exact map to Flash Wolves yesterday, to now coming back today and picking it up against Ardeont of all teams, no way. You could not have foreseen that.
I mean, we were just saying right before this, every direct comparison we could make pointed towards Blank not being able to do it. Like you just said, they lost it to Flash Wolves last night when this should be literally their best map in the entire tournament. AHQ, who beat Flash Wolves on Ilios, lost it to Ardeont. And now Blank have beaten Ardeont on it. Nothing matters anymore, but I'll tell you what, Blank off that, if nothing else, are looking good.
Second team to take a map of Ardeont. That's something to be quite proud of right now, but can you be the first team to actually beat Ardeont in a full match? That's an even more impressive
That
thing.
would be a resurgence.
1-0 up so far in the series. They lead it.
They absolutely are. The thing you've got to consider here, I mean, like I say, it would be one heck of a resurgence for Blank. The ideal time, as it were, to get a second wind as they approach playoffs would almost certainly secure that spot in the playoffs for themselves as well, short of some disastrous results against AHQ. The one thing you've got to consider on the other side of that coin, though, is for Ardeont, this is scary. This is the continuation now of what happened yesterday. AHQ challenged them more than any other team had so far, and that included Flash Wolves, who also took a map off them. But Ardeont did still win 3-0. This, however, this is something different. The teams are getting closer and closer to Ardeont. You don't want them to finally surpass you right as you hit playoffs.
Another big issue for Blank is how do we continue this momentum forward? How do you continue beating Ardeont? Because if you do take the first map down now, you still cannot expect a 3-0 win from Blank Esports. If this is going to be a win for Blank, Ardeont going to make them really work for it. It'll have to be a 3-2 if anything. There's really not a case where Ardeont will just give away maps as easily as what we just saw in Ilios. Certainly not downplaying Blank's efforts here, because it was well-earned and well-deserved. But Ardeont has now been, and rightfully so, the most adaptable team in the entire OPC so far, and it shows why.
Exactly, and of course the next two maps they go to are Hybrid, which gets to be Ardeont's pick, and Assault, which may be Blank's pick, but we've still got to go back to that being their weakest game mode. And Ardeont, I mean, there is no weak or strong game mode. They're just good all across the board, right? So, I mean, initially I'm just interested to see what Ardeont are going to take for Hybrid. I would assume King's Row. And I actually think that gives Blank another kind of window here. So if we pick up that thread of question we had yesterday with AHQ, can they win one map on Ilios? Answer was yes. They couldn't get any of the yeses beyond that being, can they win the map as a whole? Can they then take that into hybrid? Can they then take that into assault? Blank, however, they've had 2 yeses. Now they've got to get past that third one. Can you also beat them on another map? Can you also beat them on the hybrid? If the answer to that is yes, they take it to match point. They really threaten Ardeont.
And let's take a look at the replay now of exactly what transpired. Going to start things off onto Wealth, the opening match, the opening fight rather, between both teams.
And this was off to a bad start for Blank. They lost Trill very early. They lost Huwu's mech very early as well. What they were able to do was keep just enough aerial pressure throughout that actually Ardeont, once they got the cap, weren't actually set up as ideally as you'd like. And honestly, Blank spent a lot of time getting beaten back, but they kept fighting Ardeont. They had really quick turnaround between fights, and when they did eventually flip the cap back over their way, the cap was only at about 50-something% for Ardeont, who would normally have stretched that out to something like an 80% by that point if it had only been 2 fights worth.
And you can see the adaptation from Blank as well, moving from Well into Lighthouse later on in the 3rd stage, because right at the start of Well, it was a case where Huss was trying to get damage down on the side of Ardeont, Trill because he went down early, Huwu because he followed Trill's death quite soon as well. They just wasn't the tank follow-up, so Huss's damage didn't count for anything. But when you got the Lighthouse, that's when he got the kills. But before we move there, let's go down to Ruins.
And this was a little unfortunate for Blank, because I mean, you look at this, it started at about 50%. Blank had it at 88% before they got it to the 99, and never quite closed it out. This ended up being really their last significant fight, and the commits came in at decent times, but Ardeont had started to adapt. They pressured out Eat You Up. They zoned out these members really well, and Erster got a huge Dragon Blade. By this point, Blank had already committed their ultimates. They didn't have any recovery tools. They couldn't rely on Eat You Up to get picks to get them back in this fight. And for the following fight after that, Blank just had no tools left.
And that's the thing, because as you sort of said, Blank committed there. They potentially even over-committed there. That's debatable, because you could see that they really had the tools to win. They knew they had the tools to win, and they knew they believed they could get the win. And certainly they probably even maybe should have, but Erster shut them down. That's not the first time we've seen Erster shut them down. And actually what's interesting about the Well series is the fact that Erster didn't get opening kills. He wasn't able to have that kind of impact that he just showed on the Ruins map. And the other thing that's quite interesting is Ruins is where you expected Blank to win, and on Wet on Lighthouse is where you expected Ardeont to win, but it was the complete opposite.
Exactly. And the thing is, it was interesting. Look, it's not the first time we've seen Erster do exactly that, you're right, but it was the first time we've actually seen it on this map today. And it's not that Erster's doing anything wrong, we're just not seeing him have the extra impact. What Blank are doing really well, I've got to give them enough credit for this, is they're actually really getting on top of the supports of Ardeont. They're kind of, you know, it's kind of like the unsung hero of Ardeont this far, because it's really easy to see DM and Erster going off in the kill feed. It's really easy to see Republic just always getting away with a sliver of health. It's really easy to see all these things, but it only happens because they've got the backbone of those supports. But you saw how often those members were going down when they suddenly didn't have Jeff to fall back to. They couldn't get away on a sliver of health because there was no one to top that health back up, and it was safe enough for Blank to get those closeouts. I've really got to compliment the target prioritization out of Blank. It was a huge component as to how they were able to take out that win on Ilios.
And now suddenly you're seeing Republic go down as well, and I think this is the changing point of the performance from both sides. Usually you don't see that. Usually you see him as the tank that stays alive. Him and Michelle as well. They seem very difficult to punish, but now in opening fights, and Lighthouse was a big example of that, Republic going down solo in a lot of situations, that normally doesn't happen for the Ardeont side. So Blank right now, whatever they're working on, whatever they're doing, if they can repeat that, continue that pressure on, especially on the backline supports, really knock down the tanks, that's when the DPS are going to find it more difficult as well, even if you don't kill the DPSs.
That is what it's going to come down to, isn't it? It's still that big if actually hanging over Blank. Look, taking off the one map, that is good. That is absolutely great. But there is that big if of, well, can they do it a second time? And naturally, Ardeont will just take us to King's Row. I think this is very much possible. I mean, first of all, Blank are no slouches on King's Row as it is. And they have got this map win now against them. This is only the second map that Ardeont have dropped, and you've got to say, no one would have expected the second map for them to drop to be against Blank, just given their other recent performances. But this is Blank looking really good.
The question now has to be, how do Blank move into the further maps in the series? And I'm going to say series because if Ardeont turn it around now, they have to go 3-1, which means we're definitely going to an escort. Still not expecting blank to 3-0 Ardeont here. That would be a little bit
something
that
of a
would
shock.
be even more unexpected than this lead that blank even currently have. But
that would be like if you get Christmas and then like 2 days later you get another Christmas that you just weren't expecting.
Well,
I'm
Christmas and Hanukkah. I don't know. Anyway, though, for blank, the question now remains: what do they run on the other maps? Because you're past Ilios now. Pharmacy was obviously good, but can you just only go to Pharmacy maps from here on out? Because now that we're going to King's Row, now that we're going to an assault and an escort potentially after that, and maybe even another hybrid if we're going to go to a map 5, you can't just run Huss on the fire every single time. He's eventually going to have to go back onto the Genji or on the Soldier or something else. And so far, he's played on Ilios Pharmacy twice and Tracer once. When he goes on the Genji, are we going to see problems again? That's the big question. King's Row, you might not see it because he gets the chance to use Junkrat. But past this map, it does look a little bit tricky.
And that's part of that big if, isn't it? We've talked at great length in every single game that Blank have played, win or lose, about Huss and his relative performance. We've talked about the good as much as we've talked about the bad, and here we do actually have to talk about the good because the Pharah was good, and actually it wasn't one-dimensional because the Tracer was good as well, and the Tracer Soldier we've seen from him in the past has been good as well. But you only want him on the Tracer when there is a good reason for Eat You Up to not be on the Tracer, because really you'd still prefer Eat You Up on that Tracer. Maybe you're kind of stuck getting Huss only onto the Soldier or the Pharah, or maybe you put Eat You Up onto something slightly less optimal just so you do get mileage out of Huss here. Really hard to say, but looks like it's going to be a Junkrat out the gate on King's Row.
Yeah, and it's, without wanting to really poke holes in Blank's composition and where their weaknesses may be, you do have to consider that if Huss goes onto something he's not comfortable on, which so far has mainly been Genji, you may start to see some issues. But one thing at a time, Huss does get to play Junkrat for now.
He does, and Ardeont get to play the exact same thing they played yesterday against AHQ when they played this team comp, and they get the quick convert onto Trill. Good trade back though onto Republican. Eyes on Huwu, of course, to kind of anchor the team in the middle of this one. They do get Huss as well though, so looking a little bit rough for Blank. Huwu gonna have to really pull some weight here now for the squad. They're really just relying on him and Eat You Up having good positioning. Pulse Bomb from DM does go wide, unfortunately, and Eat You Up converts onto Erster. They're really gonna make Ardeont fight for this, but they have kind of fought for it so far. They've nearly got the cap over, just need to get a couple more kills.
Who's got a lot of energy here, nearly on 100, so you got to keep him alive.
Whoa.
He has to be the rock for this team. As long as Huwu's alive in the front lines and he never goes down, Ardeont should not be able to push on through.
Then it's actually worked for them, despite that one getting closed. Blank actually have managed to hold out off the back of kind of building this position around Huwu.
So far, Trill staying alive as well makes sure that Huwu is rather healthy. The Graviton Surge needs to be the weapon here. There's double support ultimates for Ardeont, so they should be able to defend. Also, Ardeont have 2 ticks on the point as well, so that helps.
Really does. Means Blank can't really cede any ground. That's going to be the commit though with that grab and the tactical visor into it. But there are those defensive ultimates, and it is already Ardeont committing out the back of that one. Instantly grabbing the DPS as those being the key members, and only one trade back for Blank. It may still be Huwu, but this time it's probably not going to be enough to kind of hold the point out for. That being said, Ardeont, that has got to be one of the slowest caps I've seen them make this tournament bar.
Yeah, it's slow, but it's still very demanding and very commanding from Ardeont's side. On the Blank side of things, they had the right sort of moves there. The Graviton Surge was the correct play from Blank Esports, but unfortunately, because double support ultimates are available for Ardeont, they had the correct counters as well. And the speed at which they're executing so far is a lot faster than the other teams that Blank have played.
Yeah, truth is you're almost never going to get the mileage out of the grab in that situation, unfortunate as it is to say. That being said, I mean, Huwu already on decent charge, back at 70% on that grab as well. I mean, this guy really is anchoring the team. Good save on Trill as they catch DM in a headshot there, and the self-destruct to make a bit of space. Even as Ursa is going aggressive, he does need to be a little careful with this one. Getting Trill, though, is the big boon for them. Grab coming up, though. Losing Huss, though. They may not want to commit this grab.
Yeah, unfortunately, Huss got kind of baited into that deflect there, and Jeff picking up the remaining 2 kills. This is Ardeont pushing on through with a lot of momentum, and you're still waiting for the Graviton Surge Earthshadow rotations from Blank Esports. If they get that before B, they can get a really nice set of, tank moves and tank ultimates that really allow them to stabilize right before the cap.
Now, this is one I'm actually quite pleased to see. Huss on the Roadhog, something he used to play quite a lot of to great effect, and we have not seen for so long now. Good dive onto the back line is by this trio, and they convert onto Gunba, but Blank are not going to go down easy, getting a trade back for themselves and forcing out that sound barrier. Looking to get aggressive, nice Earth Shatter, but they need to convert the kill. Don't quite land the hook, and the Transcendence gets sucked into the grav to save the members who are in it. All they have so far off that is Michelle's mech, and it's still Ardeont putting the pressure on as Ursa rejoins with a Dragon Blade. We know how those go for him. That's going to be Blank. Valiant effort, but no dice.
So far, Ardeont still just managed to push on through, and every time you think that Blank have the right tools here, Ardeont have the correct counters. The Earth Shatter didn't pick up enough kills off that. Huss unfortunately misses the hook onto Jeff. Had he killed Jeff, had he stopped Jeff from using Transcendence, that may have been an acceptable and even successful Graviton Surge from who by the way now changes the D.Va. This entire composition for Blank has changed.
Yeah, they're still running this triple tank though, and I mean, also never bulk at Huwu's D.Va, of course. I mean, this dude is an absolute rock on both those heroes. And that's going to be the sound barrier out. They try and convert onto Jeff, and they do convert onto Ursa. There's the follow-up at last, as Trill and Huss able to get that work done. Ardeont are going to end up taking a fight loss here. Eat You Up doesn't actually mind taking the dive there. They get the respawns.
Well, they do get the stabilization as well, which is important for Blank because they haven't had that so far on this map. A kind of doesn't really count when the cart's been moving. On that mobile defense, this is the first time that Blank actually stops the cart fully. This is when they can really get a lot of moves in now. Huss with the whole hog, that's going to be a bit of a spanner in the works for the attack for Ardeont as well.
And I've got to compliment Blank's ultimate rotations here as well. They've really kind of matched Ardeont's efficiency. Nice defense matrix to stop that coming through, the damage there. That's going to be the whole hog out as Huss kind of stuck in the corner, and it's not quite paying off. They need to convert these kills, and for all these low health bars on Ardeont, no one's dying. Finally losing Animo there. And Blank, they just don't really have the members to follow it up anymore. For all the work Trill was trying to do in the front line, Ardeont themselves just went deep on Blank's back line.
And interestingly enough, Huss was the one that opened that up for Ardeont. That was a little bit of an optimistic hook. He wasn't going to get a kill because Michelle's Matrix, nice and healthy there, straight into the whole hog again. Matrix, nice and healthy there. Even if it wasn't, Ursa has a defleet.
And now Blank, they're looking lean on those ultimates. Good headshot onto DM though. Bit of a saving grace, that being one of the ultimates Ardeont did have up, and they are just happy to hold on for that respawn before trying to push the cart that last little bit.
And the biggest problem here is that Blank have to go up against this Ardeont Doom push, which is imminent. Only Republic is missing the ultimate, but everyone else, 5 ticks up, 5 lights up. You can expect a big push on through.
Yeah, just, I don't know, maybe there'll be another base 2 with 5k, but that's Ursa going to look to get aggressive already. That's one good catch on RQT. Ursa able to back out into the Transcendence to top himself back off within an inch of his life. Huwu looking for that 5k, not going to get anything for it, not going to get back in the mech either. Now it's going to be all about Stagger for Blank. It's just playing for the clock.
Stagger is definitely on the cards here. Gumba can transcend it straight out the doors. Still waiting for a couple of respawners though. Huss kind of... okay, he trapped someone in with them.
Yeah, what he's done there, though, is he has kind of stopped the rest of Ardeont, stopping anyone from getting out of that gate, while Blank were wrapping around the other side. It's a bit of a gambit, and it worked a little. They got onto the cart, but they're not getting anything done just yet. Sound barrier does come out, but they're still just losing members, not converting these kills. Now the self-destruct from Michelle is something they have to respect. RQT goes down to it. 141 is probably the slowest time I've ever seen Ardeont get on King's Row, but they still capped, and at no point did Blank really fully hold out.
And Blank's A was probably where a lot of that time was gained, as well as the C point. B was a bit of a write-off for Blank. That was mostly just Ardeont pushing on through consecutively, not a lot of resistance on the Blank side, which is a bit of a shame and kind of unexpected because Blank had such good ultimates available. Graviton Surges, Earth Shatters, the rotations you expected to be there, but the execution, unfortunately not. Ardeont at every juncture throughout the middle part of the map had the correct responses.
The thing is, with that time as well, you do almost wonder, what if Blank had been able to just get a little bit more in some places? What if Huwu's Grav had been able to pick up kills? What if they'd got a pick onto Jeff or Animo before that and those defensive ultimates weren't there? There was actually a world where Blank took even more time off the clock, but even so, you've actually got to compliment how much time they took off the clock for Ardeont. They can very much push this to time bank.
That's got to be the game plan here. And with how much time has to be the bigger question, because most teams, a lot of teams have actually failed to push on through against Ardeont. That's not too, I guess, surprising when you consider how good Ardeont are, when you consider where they are on the standings. Them holding Blank at some part of this map, either on A or B, or even on C like we saw against AHQ, is certainly on the cards.
would not be the first time for Ardeont. And I mean, that's the thing, the question that hung over this is, yeah, Blank got Ilios, but can they convert that onto any other map wins? It's always going to be an uphill battle. At no point are you ever ahead of Ardeont. Don't ever fool yourself into thinking you are. But certainly not over yet either, as much as it wasn't over when Ilios was 1-1. So maybe Blank can still do it.
You still have to be reminded that Ardeont are the team that has the best adaptation across every team in OPC. Whatever they think you're going to do, whatever they see you do, if they lose to anything, they come back even stronger and they know how to counter it. Because we're still into King's Row, you still get to see Huss on this junk grab.
Yeah, Blank out the gate on the exact same composition they were defending with. So we'll have to see how that kind of works out for them. Good job kind of warding DM, who is looking for the wraparound. And Ardeont do need to be careful pincering, but they have got him behind these tanks. That's going to be the first conversion onto Trill. Not quite able to protect that back line. Eat you up though, getting good work done onto Republic. No closeout though. That means he gets the back off safely. And they just can't quite get these last few shots to secure the kills. Ardeont are able to top themselves off. Now Blank having to retreat, but instantly getting routed as they do so. That is a quick stack of kills for Ardeont and a ton of ult charge to boot.
And that was a well-managed cooldown as well for Ardeont's side. They were waiting for the bubble to come up for Republic, waiting for the Matrix to recharge from Michelle as well. As soon as that happened, they made the dive on through. Eat Up was the prime target there. Everyone else back to the corner. Blank had nowhere to run.
What Blank do, though, have now is a couple of ultimates coming up on their own side of things. Ultimates that they're going to need to get a lot of work out of, and they really do just need to open up with some good picks out of someone like Eagle on Plus too. Yeah, great sleep. Still need to find a way to commit. Kind of neuters that nano boost, luckily for them. Still just trying to find their in. Ardeont getting pressured back, though. That's a decent Deadeye, but no dice just yet. Good catch on Republic with that Rip Tire there as they pressure out DM as well on the side. Get the follow-up as well. Gunber landing the shot for glory's sake, I suppose. Now Ersta's going to have to get a big Dragon Blade.
And this is the in that Ardeont, rather the in that Blank Esports had been waiting on. You do expect Ardeont to still come in for this final contest here. Republic is very close to the Primal Rage, and they have a lot of stalling tools and a lot of damage tools.
Great charge onto Ersta means he may just not get out of this alive. 5 health. No follow-up on that last shot, though, and he gets to get back to get healed up, but they demech Michelle to trade with Trill here. Need to get more done, but the grab is out, and that's the route. That's the wipe that Blank needed, and actually looking like they'll be able to cap A in a pretty similar time to Ardeont.
Very hard fought for both sides there, but eventually the Graviton Surge does come out, and that's the game-winning plan for Huwu and the rest of Blank. That's kind of what you expected to see defensively, but this time for Ardeont, they didn't have those defensive options. You bled those ultimates out on an early push, and now you get to reap the rewards by placing the Graviton Surge, and you don't see a Transcendence from Jeff, you don't see a Sound Barrier from Anima.
Blank actually did that quite cheaply as well, all things considered. I mean, the Dragon Blade came out, the Pulse Bomb came out. Jeff had used the Nano Boost for that fight as well, and Animo even Sound Barrier. Blank uses Sound Barrier and a Grav.
Oftentimes that's all you need, but it was this Riptide that opened things up for Blank to start things out. This killed Republic last time.
And this time it gets Ersta. So again, happy enough to take that trade with Trill, who had landed a decent Earth Shatter. Now they're just trying to force Republic to overextend, looking to get some kind of catch on the backside of that. But they're having a little bit of a hard time of it getting onto this payload to get it successfully underway. And actually now, with the hold there from Ardeont, Blank kind of not really looking good for ultimates, at least for now.
And that's the other problem is that Ardeont, because they're playing aggressively, are able to stabilize on this cap, make sure they stall up. This isn't something Blank got to do on their own defense.
And that's a good stall from Michelle with the self-destruct, but that's the window now for Blank to get in as the self-destruct found nothing, and Ardeont now very lean for ultimates with that not a factor, and Hu with plenty of charge as well. Happy to just do damage, get distance, and start looking for a grab soon.
Yeah, we're looking for the win condition again from Huwu when he gets that grab. He's so close now. Get his energy back up to 100 as well. Trill should be going up to try and feed that energy bar. It's going to be Ardeont looking for the response options. If Jeff and Animo can get the double support ultimates, you can expect the grab to not be enough.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened on their point A defense for Blank. Trying to keep Trill alive here, kind of having to work overtime. That's a decent grab, but there's the commit on the defensive ult. Doesn't quite save Ersta, though. They don't have the Transcendence just yet either, as the Deadeye going to zone some members. Now, Ardeont a little split. Blank need to find a way to take advantage of it, because there's the Transcendence to come in, allows Republic to dive safely, and they're relying on just upfront damage. Huss on the side of this one, able to stay safe for now, but needs to be careful. Out of the fight for a moment. Hu's still got a ton of charge, but they're just not quite converting. This time again, though, looking to make the Riptire be the one that opens it up for them. Looking to get the backliners. That's Jeff. That's what they needed. Getting Michelle as well, and the good sleep on Republic zones him out of the fight, despite that Primal Rage doing so much to keep him alive. Looking for that big Dragon Blade, and they get 2 out of Ersta there. Need to get more. Don't get more. IQT trades that one back, and off the back of that, Blank should be able to cap.
It's the first time or one of the few times that Blank are able to stop Ursa mid-Dragon Blade. They did have another situation A where Blank were able to do that. If they can continue shutting them down, you're not going to see the big hero plays. You're not going to see a repeat of Ilios Ruins where it's Ursa bringing it back, because now it's Blank's time and they're pushing through.
That was an ill-fated contest from Ardeont. They lost Jeff and DM and just now lost Animo. That actually gives them a lot of extra momentum. They've got Huwu back on high charge, they've got him back up to the Grav, and they've got all these other ultimates coming online. You actually can't say the same for Ardeont.
Yeah, this is going to be the push we expect Blank to push it to actually make it to the end here. No defensive ultimates, nothing on Jeff or Animo's bar just yet, and Huwu, Grav ready to go. One good Grav is all Blank need to be able to push on.
Ardeont taking a very smart early fight though. Means Blank have to commit ultimates if they want to get the payload back underway, and they do commit those ultimates, but then losing members in the trade. RQT doesn't want a sound barrier because they want to at least hold on to something, and Ursa just got enough kills to keep Ardeont in the fight, and now you've got to be kicking yourself for committing the Grav and the Earth Shatter on a lost fight when Ardeont had nothing.
You're going to be kicking yourself just a little bit more if this is now what causes Blank to not push on through. They use both win conditions there. It's not like they save one of the tank ultimates. What if they push on through now? They don't have any weapons to actually take down Ardeont, who now are about to get double defensive ultimates again.
And they lose Trill in the mix as well. They want to get this over the line. They have to get it over the line, and they want to have some time in the bank while they do it, but they just got no ultimates. Ardeont now winning 2 fights in a row without committing a single ultimate. What's gone wrong for Blank?
Well, they had to overcommit, and this is it. Decision making is what went wrong for Blank. You had a situation double tank ultimates went out. You had a situation where people decided to use things that maybe they shouldn't have, and now the only saving grace for Blank is that Huwu maybe still has some good energy left despite losing 2 fights. If you can nano him, then you can get some kills.
That's what they needed, getting the early pick on DM, but Erster looking to turn that one right back around as they convert onto Gunbar on the back line. Soundbarrier keeps the members alive, but if Huwu goes down, that could be all Ardeont need to swing this one in their favor. Committing the Transcendence as well to drive it home. That's going to be some change-ups out of Blank as well. They did have to commit a few more ultimates for that this time, Ardeont, but they've still got 3 up.
Blank Esports get driven back, but luckily they don't live too far away. Now the grab is back and available again for Blank. Totally different composition. They drop the majority of the shield-based tanks here. Huss is even back onto the Genji, and you got to think it's a little bit dangerous. Huss go down.
Oh yeah, great stick from DM. That's exactly what you're after. And now Blank, they've had about 3 or 4 of these fights where they've just not gotten in. Committing this Graviton, it's got a couple of kills, but I don't know about this one. They've still got a lot of ground to fight through with not many tools to do it and not many members left. They're really committing, trying to make a momentum-based play, and it might just not work out, but they do get the conversion on Jeff. Are going to get the payload underway. Members topped off now. Maybe they can do it.
You have to read that was a desperation Graviton search. He used it because he needed to swing that fight back around, but Ardeont they still got gas back in the tank. Can't really say the same about Blank Esports, so you're getting close to this cap, but how are you going to cap it out?
And that's the thing, you've still got to get it over the line no matter how close it is, but the pick on Jeff is a good way to open it out. They need to get a lot more. They need to get the payload moving as well. They're starting to get some ultimates for it. May need to commit the sound barrier. They've got the few through. Trill doing the work, and Huss gets 1. Looking to get 2 now too. Trill another one for himself. They've done it. They're taking it to Time Bank.
Oh boy, got to keep it competitive, got to make sure it's always a fight right down to the last, and this is going to be very difficult to call, but look, Blank had such a difficult run through their own attack. It looked like Ardeont, despite being blocked up at several points, a much more comfortable run on their attack, especially Streets, might have been the biggest change-up here, but for Blank, that was incredibly hard for it.
I'm going to be frank, I was not expecting them to get it over the line after Ardeont started to really dig in their heels on that last little stretch there, leading up to point 3. But Blank able to push that one back, get it turned around. The Grav, as much as it was a bit of a desperation play, it's the measured kind where they knew they had to go for it. They could have at least converted off it, and it ended up being a smart call because it put momentum on their side, and that ended up being all they needed to get it over the line.
Well, they had some momentum going behind them, but then the ultimates came up for Blank at the right time. Huss with the Dragon Blade was able to get a couple kills. They were all just able to continue that push on through, and for one of the few times in Ardeont's side, they weren't able to get the counter trades. Usually in Ardeont's side, despite losing, despite dying, would always be able to counter trade you back out. This just wasn't one of those moments.
Well, now it is Blank with the lesser time, having to fight first, attack first, can go onto the Pharaoh. And they need to get that cap, need to set a huge amount of distance.
Still deciding exactly what composition they want to run here, and this is more or less how they won Ilios, minus the fact that Hu was on D.Va back then, but Hu has been performing quite well on the Xayah composition. Ardeont, however, you got to feel like they have started to be able to react to him quite well now. They are able to counter Hu a lot better than at the start of this map.
The one thing they haven't quite yet successfully counted out has been Huss on the Pharah, so maybe just the combination of the two will be all it takes for Blank to change things up. This is amounting to quite a slow push though, and it's Trill who's the first casualty as well, who has not got a lot of charge just yet, and they're actually struggling for it as Gunba gets picked, not quite closing out on Republic, using that bit of cover there, and now Hu may not be able to get back out. Blank, they may not even get a third on this point here.
That's the kind of pressure that you need from Ardeont, especially shutting Hu down. That's probably the most important part here. Make sure you reset his energy. There's not going to be any ultimates available. Like Hu now changing back onto D.Va. Their final opportunity begins and possibly ends now.
Respecting that they need to keep those supports alive, but Trill already so pressured, nearly dead, does go down, and still no trade kills for Blank as they lose one, only just getting one back on the board. Huss got to work overtime here, and still no res for Gunba either. They have to last in this fight for so long to get these respawns in, but now it's just Gunba, Huss, and eat you up, and now it's no Gunba either. They're just barely getting respawns in, and the self-destruct from Michelle zones these members out of the air. Not 1/3, no sir. And now Blank going to have to get a full-on defense just to tie it up.
That's the biggest problem here for Blank, because the best result for them now has to be a draw, which then takes you to the golden cap on a control map, which still feels a little bit 50-50. They just did win Ilios, but Ilios has been their best control so far. Don't want to speak too soon here, because the more difficult task is to actually hold out 1/3 against Ardeont for over 2 minutes.
The thing is, Blank held the initial point for roughly 2 minutes. But it had got up to 2/3 when they started getting the hold. So now they can't give that same kind of ground while Huwu's getting the charge up. And they actually have to hold for a little longer than what they have done thus far. This is still very much Blank on the back foot. Truth is, it always has been right from the get-go, just because this is 4th place versus 1st place. But even so, look, it's still doable for them, and I suppose that may be all they need.
And even defensively, Blank require snowball mechanics here. They require Hu to get high energy, they require him to get a really quick graviton surge, and they need a lot of Huss's damage, get kills with the Riptire through charging a quick ultimate as well, and then rotate the Earthshatter in there when required. So, I mean, for all of Blank, they need to be able to achieve this in roughly 2 minutes, and it's a lot to ask for. If any of these tanks goes down, if Hu dies at any juncture earlier on, this could be it.
Only 1/3, and that's really the thing that hurts Blank the most, is just not getting any time on the point themselves. They only had a minute, and they took a lot longer to cap it on their own attack, so it's not too surprising, but it does make this something of an uphill battle, to say the least.
Here we go. An uphill battle starts with 1 step, though.
Absolutely does, and well, that's the first step. It's Ardeont stepping onto the point, and Blank do give them that space, but they can't give them much more than that. Sleep goes wide. Need to get the closeout of Jeff. That's a good one to open it up. Eats you up now. Looking to get these wraparounds, and they're keeping Trill topped off. DM getting pressured back a little bit. They're starting to try and get this route here. Need to be careful in so doing, but getting DM. Now looking to get these tanks. Michelle, if they demech him, that would be huge for them. Then they do. That's going to waste Ardeont's time. This is what Blank were needing.
That's the kind of snowball that Blank needed as well. Hu now on 50% charge, Huss on even more charge than that. You can expect a quick Riptire. If a quick Riptire does come out, gets a couple of kills, stops Ardeont up, forces them to reset, then the grab comes out afterwards, then the Earthshatter to finish the map.
Speaking of reset, Michelle reset the mech, and Erster a little bit too deep, felt he could get the kill on Huss and ended up losing his life for it. They've actually lost about a minute of their time total. Now going to be looking into some Blank ultimates.
Hopefully they're not firing blanks on these ultimates as well. Both of these pulse bombs and the type Riptire need to land on targets. They need
there
to
goes
secure
Riptire, looking to get right into it. Don't get anything, and they lose Gunba, but they get the trade back. Need to pressure out DM as well. Pulse bomb goes in. They need to get a little bit more. They've got Republic. Also need to keep the point alive itself. Need to get some members back onto it, but now they're able to do so. Erster can't really get anything done. Blank, that was a little dicey, but they've kept this one alive. They're going to get these members back in the fight. Who's got the charge up? They've got the grab. They can do this.
Just to reiterate, the win condition here for Blank Esports is to maintain Hu's charge, maintain the energy up, then use the Graviton Surge, get a team wipe, then close out with Earthshatter right in the final moments to stop Ardeont from even reaching the cap itself. That has to be the execution for Blank. Any mis-execution there, anything going wrong with that game plan, and they're going to lose.
And this has got to be a tense. Wow, early pick on DM. That's a huge opener. They need to respect that defense matrix, and Ardeont can still wait for this respawn, but now this is their last chance.
Yeah, and last chance going up against a lot of ultimates as well. Even if Gumba gets his nano boost, then Huru gets even deadlier. He's on 90 charge right now, 90 energy. This with the nano boost means he's going to have a team wipe.
The only thing is the nano boost on Ursta's Dragon Blade could be all Ardeont need for their own. That's the Earth Shatter they need, but Ursta's not caught in it. Huslo getting one. Ursta's got to really turn this one back around against Gunva, but he's got to get a lot more, and he's not got anything at all. Huru has it on lockdown. Overtime is there, looking to disappear, and I don't believe it, folks. Blank have done it. They're going to take this one now to Golden Point. It is not the flat out and out loss. A tiebreaker is better than what anyone else has done to Ardeont thus far. Blank could very much push this 2-0 up now.
No one has ever taken Ardeont to this far. I mean, this is completely unexplored territory. You've never seen Ardeont this backed up. You've never seen Ardeont being pushed this far by any team, and now you're in a situation where even Ardeont don't know what to do about this. They have to now come back. Golden Point has to be where it starts for the team. Otherwise, it's 2-0 for Blank, and suddenly you're in a match point scenario that, again, no one has taken Ardeont to.
And look, they got Golden Pointed just yesterday against AHQ, but that was on Assault. I mean, it happens rarely enough on Hybrid. You certainly don't expect it to be Ardeont who get Golden Pointed. Not when they had 150% of Blank's own time for that time bank. Blank only had a minute. That's really one, maybe two pushes if you're quick about it. Ardeont had plenty of time. They had plenty of pushes, and every single one got repelled. Blank, they are really pulling it out today.
I want to see now if it's possible to go to a pharmacy control point, because that's when Blank are going to be at their best again. This is, so far, every time you've seen Blank run a non-Tracer Genji or a non-Tracer Soldier composition, that's what's been successful for them. So to get a 2-0 lead now, to go into Assault, is very important to start things off with if you're going to see a Blank victory tonight. But to even get there in the first place, where are they going to win control? Because this is important. If they go somewhere where Genji has to be played by Hus, it doesn't look pretty.
And it's tricky, isn't it? Because we know Ardeont favor Lijiang Tower, but then you risk having Night Market where you do get that potential for the Pharah. Maybe you try and go for Nepal. It's really hard to say. You risk going into something that Blank have previously used to overpower you. You don't want to end up in that situation if you can so help it.
It's tough for both teams, right? It's surprising that you're at this sort of point where it is so tough for both teams. You don't really know who's favored here, who exactly you want to, you know, which map is going to be good for which team. If you're on the Ardeont side, you want to go to a non-Pharah map. You want to go to something a little bit more flat on the ground. So Shrine would be working for you here. Sanctum, I would say, does and doesn't work for you at the same time because it allows us to go back on the Junkrat. Village opens up Pharah, so I mean,
we're going
to be Sanctum.
Yeah, we're going to Sanctum, and I think this helps Blank a little just because their Shrine and their Village both have some issues. I feel like Sanctum just a little tidier sometimes. That's a big sometimes.
Yeah, it's unfortunate if you're Ardeont, and very fortunate if you're Blank, because also you get to allow Huru to play the Zarya again, as well as putting Hus onto the Junkrat. So this composition has been so successful for them on King's Row. Can they make it successful again? Because if they do, that's a win.
They're just looking to get aggressive. Blank, yeah, just sticking to their guns here. Huru out on the Zarya. Early kill onto Jeff, and again, the target prioritization has been good so far. Erster having to sit quite a way back, and they're able to get a lot of mileage out of Hus, just putting the pressure down. Still not enough casualties for Blank to be guaranteed to get the point. There's going to be a good old scrap on it, and Ardeont haven't got a touch on it. There we go. Republic going flying in, trying to get onto Huru, but they do need to respect the Blank haven't been dislodged. That's going to be the cap over. No follow up on Hus either.
Ooh. It's very difficult to follow up on Hus. Notice his positioning there inside the left. He can't get converted on because no one can really dive him. He's got so many grenades, so many concussive mines, steel traps laid out everywhere as well. It has to be Ardeont converting on everyone else except Hus.
Yeah, well, and then fortunately for Blank, they had to actually pull back for a moment there. Both Hus and Eat You Up took a bit of poke damage. They had to kind of set those members up quite a way back and get them topped off. Left them a little bit separated, and it happened right as Ardeont were pouncing as well. Very well read by Ardeont.
It's a good team fight for Ardeont as well because they got the full 6 white. That's going to give them a lot of ultimate charge. Now you have a situation where Ardeont are very competitive with Blank, especially on the ultimate front.
Good corner check on DM means he doesn't get that sneaky pulse bomb out. Looking to get the wraparound now. Scott Eyes on Gunba, throws it into the mix, but he hasn't got the convert. Does need to respect Gunba as well, and indeed does. That's the tactical visor, and who's got the charge back up as well. So Ardeont do need to convert kind of quickly. They're a little lean on ultimates, but they close out on Huss. That's the key one, and no grab just yet. Now Chill getting pressured out, and Ardeont, they're getting these kills before Blank can quite get the ultimates up that would prevent them. Now going to get Huwu as well. A, very late. B, resets his charge.
And that's probably the most important part because so far Huru's been doing a good job. If he's alive, if he's got high energy, then he's like a 3rd DPS here, but with 400 HP and with an additional 200 shield with the bubble as well. Graviton Surge and Earthshatter are both alive though. That's going to be really useful for Blank. So far, Ardeont have a decent lead, but not big enough of a lead to go into overtime.
And that's the thing, Ardeont got the kills before Blank had the ultimates to save themselves, but now that means Blank do have all these ultimates up, and Ardeont have to respect that. Indeed they are. That's the grab. Look at the Reptile onto it, but they throw the Transcendence into the mix. No kills coming through out of any of those resources. Blank crowded around the grab, knowing that they couldn't do any damage into it, and did nothing. Ardeont just pounced on that.
And that could be the disastrous fight for Blank that now seals the deal for Ardeont as they do start threatening the overtime. You had a Riptide scenario into a grab. You expected like 3, 4, maybe even 5 kills there. And Earthshatter from Trill as well. That could have still been another saving grace for Blank, but nothing was converted upon. Huru gets the energy reset, now has to go on to deep.
Oh, the stick is big, and they lose Eat You Up too. Getting Trill, it's all over for Blank before it even begins. The tactical visor sat safe on the point from Erster. Huwu gonna contest it for as long as he can, but he knows that it is only buying time. And Blank, the one time where it really needed to count, they just didn't execute the fight. And that does mean that Ardeont, on that golden point, are going to pull it back, tie up the series 1-1, but we've got to say it one last time. This is the hardest anyone has challenged Ardeont so far, and it is not over yet.
And because of Ardeont's positioning and because of their level as a team, how skilled they are, how coordinated they are, every single mistake you make on the Blank side is punished. So to beat Ardeont here as Blank today, you need to have perfect plays. Every single thing you do, every decision you make has to be entirely optimal because it only takes one disastrous fight, which we just saw in the Paul Sanctum, where the Graviton Surge didn't connect with any kills, nothing from Riptide as well, no Earthshatter connected, even the follow-up fight, no Earthshatter committed, or rather, no Earthshatter connected. That's when Blank go down. Too many mistakes.
Exactly, and off the back of it, it now goes to 1-1. But again, I mean, look, that was just so close. And of course, that started on King's Row as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at some replays of that. This being the initial aggression out of Ardeont. They opted to attack first, and they got a lot of work done in terms of progress before Blank were able to start counterattacking. But by that point, Huwu had got the charge up, and they were able to counterattack.
And Huwu and the rest of his squad on the Blank side were able to disengage properly, despite Huss going down, because the rest of them stuck together. They had a tank in the front line, which was Huwu. He was threatening a lot of damage with high energy. There wasn't a scenario for Ardeont to continue charging on through, so they had to kind of respect the space that Blank had there as well. And Huwu's getting a lot of energy charge here, by the way. This is still the first fight, and we're nearly on a grab.
And look, as much as that cap was close, you're completely right. It got to the point where actually Ardeont weren't able to get any further kills. Because as much as Zarya is kind of an off tank, there is that situation where she's adequately able to tank, and that is when you've got those members of Blank constantly healing Huwu up, you've got those bubbles to absorb a lot of damage, and they're putting out a lot of damage. You can't actually get really close to them with those flanker types like the Genjis and the Traces and the Winstons of the world, because it's just not safe. It's really hard to dislodge the Zarya in that position. So even with the other tank Trill being dead, Huwu was able to keep the front line safe.
Yeah, because again, you have to respect his damage output there. And now going into a little bit further into the map, we're already on to C for Ardeont's attack.
And this was the ambitious whole hog, unfortunately, out of Huss. They were off to an okay start, but instead of looking for a wraparound to convert kills on the members that were taking damage from the whole hog, they actually rushed through to the other side to try and aid Huss, and it ended up meaning that actually, not only did Ardeont get kills, the few members that got super low never quite got punished for being that low. They were able to stay safe because there wasn't any follow-up out of Blank. It was a bit of an emergency whole hog, and you got to imagine If that had just gone a slightly different way, that could have been the hold. They got it a little bit after the fact, and they did still give Ardeont a real run for their money, but that was the swing point in the defense, where it went from being a possibility that they could hold out completely before the cap to being just trying to get time off the clock.
The real optimistic play was actually the hook, because the hook kind of led to the disaster situation where then you had to commit the whole hog as well. And even then, maybe you just take it on the chin and say, I'm going down, but I'm keeping the whole hog here, which might have still been a better decision for Huss, but it kind of just turned from a bad situation into a worse situation.
Yeah, unfortunately, it kind of ended up falling that way, and there were just a few moments like that for Blank. Very, very few, though, especially when you actually compare to how they've been playing thus far. And that is the thing that we do have to talk about here. This is still leaps and bounds beyond what Blank have done so far this tournament, and they're doing it against like the hardest possible team to be doing it against right now. And there's the fact that no one else has really challenged Ardeont this much. Look, win or lose, this is a Blank that you've got to say is looking very threatening as they approach playoffs. They do still need to get it over the line. They do still need to beat at least AHQ to make it into playoffs. That is if they lose this match, but you've got to think that that's achievable for them too.
The opening fight here from Blank was really good. Notice the damage output from Huss. Notice the actual area control. Trill in the front lines here. No one from the Ardeont side can really break past the shield. That gives Huss the opening kill onto Jeff, and now Ardeont just got to run tail.
And they do. The one thing that is smart, though, is they run tail, because the point hadn't unlocked yet. Blank are able to start getting on it. And then they kind of had to win a second fight. They actually do that, right? They get enough pressure out on these members. Ardeont know that they can't really do this safely, so they start backing off. Again, very smart call. But now, you see Huss is low. Eat You Up is about to take a chunk of damage as he's looking to set up, and he ends up having to pop down his biotic field. The team's now split. Eat You Up can't get good sightlines on the fight, and Ardeont pounce. Look at how quickly the kills get converted once Blank are in that slightly back-footed situation, and they just never got back on the front foot from there.
And the most impactful kill, once again, has to be the one on Zahu, because every time he gets his energy reset, that's so much of Blank's damage potential just out the window. And multiple times, unfortunately, he just went down, and it was the adaptation from Ardeont. And you have to be reminded of this. They're so good at adapting. They see, okay, who is probably the biggest problem here? Huss is also a very big problem. Deal with both of them, and suddenly Blank fall apart.
Yeah, exactly. And there was, of course, that one final fight as well when Blank had kind of finally scrapped it out, made a preceding fight very expensive for Ardeont. They had their ultimates charged up, just could not quite execute, and hopefully we will be able to see a replay of that. And it just came down to the one ultimate that Ardeont did still have to play with, which was the Transcendence, and that was exactly what had caused the issue on the earlier point in King's Row, with Hu throwing a grav out on a team that had a Transcendence and a sound barrier. Look, it's still the right call to throw out that grav, but you've still got to play respecting that they're probably going to survive it. Don't throw too much at it. Don't also throw the Earth Shatter. Don't also throw the Riptire. Just be a little conservative with all those other tools, because otherwise you're going to throw them into something that can't be killed. You've got to remember, Zenyatta, there was a point where he started to replace the really Mercy res heavy meta, like really early days we're talking, because of the safety he provided if your team got caught in a grav.
And actually, you know, it's about the situation where you either really commit or you don't at all. And they kind of did the midway mark. And you can't really afford to go midway. You have to really go or you don't. Let's take a look at the next replay.
And it is going to be exactly that fight here. And I kind of call this bees around honey. The grav placement.
I want to see the Riptire actually.
Yeah, the grav placement was actually really good. The Riptire got into the mix as well. But here's the thing: they got these members. They didn't kill them quickly enough. And then in comes the rescue ultimate. And at that point, look at how Blank was sat around it. They were just sitting immediately in front of this team whom they could not kill. They were really equally as clustered as Ardeont were. At least Ardeont had the excuse that they were caught in a grav, right? Blank was so grouped together, all the damage that Ardeont started putting out at the moment the grav ended just totally shattered Blank. And they'd already committed all their tools too for no gain.
And that's the problem, is you would even consider if they committed more tools, they might have been able to turn around. Maybe a nano boost onto who had energy, a nano boost onto Trill, who had an Earth Shatter, use the Earth Shatter, knock everyone down, because they were all grouped up together anyway. That could have been the fight turnaround. You could have played for damage control, but again, Blank chose the middle path there, which is always the incorrect one. You either don't commit or you fully commit, and they didn't do either.
Or maybe split your focus just a little bit more. The grav was great. It caught 3 members, and they had enough tools between that and the Riptire just to close out on those members. Maybe Trill should have been looking for Jeff. They knew that Jeff was going to be coming back into the fight. They knew that he was going to have that Transcendence available as well. You had all of those resources, and you only needed to counter that one in the Transcendence. You could have committed an ultimate ultimate to do that. Heck, you could have committed 2 ultimates, 3 ultimates, just to knock Jeff out of the fight so that your Graviton could get the mileage it needed.
And by the way, we did get to see there exactly what happened to Huss's Riptide. Unfortunately, it came in just a little bit too late after the grab had expired, after the Transcendence was well committed by Jeff already. So had the Riptide come out just a little bit sooner or just in time to reach the Graviton Surge, I mean, you kind of just want to navigate it so it reaches the Graviton Surge.
Yeah.
Should have been like a 3 or 4K. It would have been the most simple 3 or 4K, but just wasn't the case here.
Well, win or lose, those few seconds of footage are going to be poured over by Blank time and time again. I guarantee you that much. And look, maybe next time they end up in that situation, it'll be a completely different story. But unfortunately for them, this time around, the story has been that they weren't able to get that fight win, couldn't get a snowball off the top of it, and it ended up being Ardeont's cap on Golden Point to tie up the series. But it is tied. It is definitely going to at least 4, and it is definitely not over.
Yep, certainly not over yet, and we'll see if Blank can pull this one up back, or if it's going to be Ardeont finishing things off once and for good, and that happens after this break.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Overwatch Pacific Championship. Thanks for sticking with us through that short break, and we are about to hit up Assault between Blank Esports and Ardeont, currently tied 1-1. As you can see, we're currently a man down. That's going to be fine. We're going to have just as fun a time anyway, and Pat Pick already coming through as well. Blank going to take us here to Volskaya Industries, and you got to call it an astute pick, really, don't you? Blank are not strong on Assault. There are no two ways about that. They have started to make some serious improvements, but you're still against the top team in the competition. You won Ilios, you had a close game on Kings Row, but you did still lose that series on Kings Row there. Now you're on your weakest map mode. But Volskaya, it kind of stands as a bit of a saving grace for Blank on the whole. They've just got the kind of tools to run with this, right? They've got the Gunber on the Sombra there. There's a very specific thing, I would say, that Blank do here on Volskaya. There's the Sombra setup, but it's the fact that they're willing to not just contest high ground, but do the same thing that a lot of other teams have done in this tournament thus far on other map modes. They try and cut off the column as it's setting up. It's something Ardeont themselves do a whole lot. Flash Wolves, one of the other major teams that do that. So they set up the Sombra, but they don't just kind of sit and wait. They do try and utilize that space when they need to fall back to it, but they're willing to play outside of that space, cut off members as they're making a march for their own setup. Then once you fall back onto that space, that's when you're in a safe spot. The one thing that has kind of fallen short for Blank though so far has just been they haven't always fallen back to that space adequately. And that's kind of been the window for these other teams if it is that Blank don't successfully execute on that cutting off the column part. So basically, if all goes well, Blank are in a favorable-ish situation here, but you do still have to respect the overall back-footedness, I suppose, of them on Assault. Look at him go, man. I wonder what the other robots think. Do they just look at him like, he's doing it again? Damn it, XB199. Can't you just stand still and patrol like a normal robot? I want to dance. He can dance if he wants to. He can leave those bots behind. And it's going to be Blank opting to defend first. Nothing too surprising in Gunber on the Sombra there, getting that set up. Ardeont as well, pulling out the Soldier Tracer. Again, nothing too surprising. Blank's target prioritization so far has been really, really solid though. They're putting a lot of emphasis on trying to pick Jeff out quickly, get him out of the picture, kind of remove that backline for Ardeont to fall back to, but it is RQT, the first casualty, not quite pulling back in time, and now Blank pressured out, do have to fall back to that position where they've got that Sombra health pack. And doing it with a numbers advantage as Trill goes down as well, and Huss pressured off to the side, gonna lose his life. And that's really quick pressure out of Ardeont, quick conversion too. Gunber close to the EMP, not gonna be able to commit it though. I mean, they just didn't have the numbers by the end of that fight anyway. Ardeont don't really have the ultimates to snowball those. That EMP hopefully going to be a saving grace come point B, but that is a quick cap on point A. Ardeont now just kind of need to find a way to carry the momentum through. 7 minutes is definitely plenty of time to cap this out. Blank really going to have to kickstart that ultimate economy off the back of the EMP, and actually Gunber, being the last casualty of that fight, won't have too much health pack control just yet, but good dive onto Erster, plus the EMP commit. They need to convert off that though, otherwise it's all for naught, and they don't get anything just yet, losing Trill themselves, and they have not been able to kickstart that ult economy. Now Ardeont themselves can actually come back in and kind of get a bit of a reaggress. Huss in a bit of trouble as RQT goes down. Ardeont set up on the point now, and they're the ones with ultimates available. DM just trying to find a way to get someone out on these backliners now as they're nearly on 2/3. And that's going to be the tactical visor committed. Is this going to be all done in one? They didn't have the potential to snowball, but Ardeont don't need potential. Ardeont, man, they just need kills, and they've got them. Just looking to get these last few over the line now. Blank, last minute contest, but no dice, 6-15. That was commanding. And also, welcome back, Kevin Averwalker.
Oh, sorry, I took a wrong turn to Temple of Anubis. No one told me we were going to Volskaya. What the
Jesus. Man. And you missed the dancing robot too. That's the thing. Like, you've got to keep an eye out for the giant robots, and if you take a wrong turn, you know full well your car's going to disappear off the map, and you're going to end up on Temple. You should know this by now, Kevin.
Yeah, well, the good news is the kind Egyptians there landed me a sand skip, and I managed to, you know, drive my way back. Sailed. Do they sail? I don't know how those things work.
It's quite poetic. Well, to catch you up, my buddy, since you only just got out of your car, that is Ardeont with a pretty commanding cap. all told on their own offense. And Blank, I mean, for everything I was just saying about their ability to defend, everything they needed to execute on and what their plans are, he's doing it again. He's very reliable in this. Basically, my point is Blank completely failed to do anything they needed to do.
So Blank on assault. So what you're telling me is Blank on assault.
Yeah, it was Blank on assault. That robot, no, he just do what he do.
Yeah. How is it so consistent now? Because we went like a season and a half and
like
not seeing
actual months. He's still doing it, by the way. And if it goes back to that little wide angle there, you'll actually still see him in the background. Now look at he's still going. He's still going. Does he just do that?
Saved up. He's been saving it up. So for like, you know, he's like, I've been holding this for about a month and well, 2.5 months now. So just got to get it all out in one go.
That's what it is. Like he's been holding in his urge to dance, but he just can't hold it in any longer. And now it's all coming flooding out in one sick robot.
If this is Footloose, is that robot Kevin Bacon? That's what I want to know.
Actually, exactly. I'm gonna nickname that robot Kevin Bacon now. That's the
Kevin Bacon of robots.
Yeah, the Kevin Bacon robot. It's a beautiful thing, really. And that's the thing, right? That's what happened with the Omnics, is they became sentient, right? They just wanted to dance too, and the humans wouldn't let them.
All right, this is now back onto the game plan for Volskaya. It's going to be interesting seeing Trill onto the Roadhog. I'm going to assume he didn't run that on defense.
No, he did not. And it's interesting to not see Huss on the Roadhog either. So they're obviously valuing the Roadhog, but they're wanting Huss on this Genji. Want to run this 2-2-2. I don't disagree with it off the cuff, but certainly we haven't seen a lot out of Huss's Genji, generally speaking. And that's the early pick onto it. Wow. Instant follow-up, and Republic getting away with murder there.
And this is kind of, you know, what I do enjoy about Blank's lineup here is they're running a pseudo pick composition, and it's kind of like an awkward McCree where you want to flashbang Jeff when he dives in on you before he translocates. In this case, it's going to be a hook, but they just couldn't find him. And Ardeont, they got this around. They put, they kind of tricked Blank or laid out the trap for Blank, allowing Blank to get into this really nice, tight corridor situation, and then just sprung that trap and completely crushed them.
Speaking of springing the trap, they spring the EMP and instantly convert onto Gunba. Huss, may just be able to scrape out alive. RQT, no, not quite as lucky, and he's going to end up taking a dive off the edge, unfortunately, and Huss going down very late in that one too means Blank. A lot of time lost for them now.
Certainly not going to get 6 minutes and 15, not with an attack time like that. And they, you know, this may even just be a bit of a struggle to get A now. They have to get at least one tick, which they don't have so far. Huss now going onto the Reaper. They're looking for a composition where they can just sit on this cap, not be too affected by the EMP, which, by the way, isn't up yet. They might get to kill Ursa if they're lucky.
Esther's just going to kill all of them as they do lose Gunba on the flank there. Pulse Bomb as well, converting onto the mech so that Huwu is kind of exposed like a tortoise without a shell. Only the tortoise is from Korea. Shrill does trade one back, and they do get those resources out of Ardeont, but Blank still kind of yet to find their way into this point.
Yeah, at least at the stage now, wait for Blank, they are about to hit their own ultimates. Gumber and RQT, most importantly, getting the double support ultimates, but now Jeff with the EMP. That rotation is back into effect. Animo going down, though, is a good start for Blank.
That is a really good start, because they're only just reinforcing these other members, but there's the EMP out, and again, instant conversion onto Gunba. I mean, you want to talk about target prioritization, and these change-ups for Blank mean they're just constantly playing from behind with the ultimates. The whole hog just hadn't found anything. Now they're still fighting into all these on the side of Ardeont and have yet to get the picks to really back it up themselves.
And that needed to be a fight win for Blank Esports. RQT with the sound barrier. Look, it wasn't enough. Counted out by the EMP. Trill with the whole hog as well. A little bit questionable. He uses it right on the side of the truck there. Don't even know who he's really targeting. It's just a lot of questions on the decision-making of that side. He's trying to use the whole hog knockback damage to knock the truck physically and roll over Ardeont.
I'm amazed at how, like, none of these vehicles move, no matter how, but, like, you get, like, Reinhardt, you could charge into the back of a car and it just doesn't budge. That's got to be a powerful handbrake.
Yeah, it's, you know, the airplane black boxes, all the vehicles are made out of that. That's why they're impenetrable.
Yeah, why not just make the whole airplane out of black box material? In any case, Ardeont now looking to be green across the board as soon as Ursta has this Dragon Blade, and Jeff looking to get the wrap around here. Doesn't quite find it just yet, but honestly, they can just bide their time. Blank only have one last chance for a fight. That's the Transcendence to commit, and they need to get some conversion, but it's already DM finding RQT. Animo happy to commit the sound barrier to keep himself alive, keep the team topped off as they go aggressive. And it's going to be Huwu taking a dive as well. Everyone down for Blank.
And still yet to see real win conditions here. You talk about the fact that they only have one opportunity. That last opportunity is about to come up at the 22nd mark. But once again, just got to play into EMP. And so far, Jeff has been able to rebut Blank on every single one of these EMP engages.
And look, by the way, right, your best case scenario here for Blank is to take it a time bank and defend for 6 minutes 15 seconds. This is more than one-sided. This is a complete reversal from what Ardeont was struggling with before, and with that fight closeout almost kind of happening before the fight breaks out in earnest. Huss getting a couple back, but couldn't even commit the rocket barrage, didn't even have time. Huwu does actually get one through, so hold on a second. They may not be out of this. They may have just got enough, just barely. Republic, even with this Primal Rage, hasn't quite got it done, and Huwu did get back in the mech. That buys even more time. They need to get something with these respawners, though, but they instantly go down as they touch the point, and now Huwu is going to be there to defend for Huss to commit that rocket barrage. You can't even get over the bump there. He's just barely getting onto the point, now finally able to make it in, but they've still lost those members, losing Trill, Gunba as well. No res, no rocket barrage, no nothing for Blank, not even a single third on that point. Compared to Ardeont's 615, that was beyond one-sided.
Yeah, this is a very defining change-up now in terms of Ardeont's pacing of the game, and Blank, they're just convincingly falling behind. Look, I went to Temple of Anubis during that break, and Blank might as well have been there as well, because they're currently not in Volskaya.
They had little to no presence. I mean, geez, they couldn't even get the defense on point B when they had a big ultimate advantage. They had the EMP, they had some other ultimates to commit, and they just got too eager. The thing with Ardeont is they've figured out something about what Blank are doing here. They're playing very measured, and Blank are naive to expect that Ardeont won't pull back and play measured when aggression isn't working out.
The other thing that you have to consider for the Blank side is they had a lot of trouble deciding what they wanted to play, and that's now led to this 2-1 lead against Blank. Well, this is probably why you're not beating Ardeont either. So it all makes sense at the end of the day, but that was reflected in the fact that Blank on their own attack had multiple compositions. Was it Huss on the Reaper, Huss then on the Genji, onto Afara as well. Gunba played, you know, Mercy in the middle of that. Trill can't decide whether he wants to play Hog or Winston or what, and then suddenly, I mean, you filled out this roster of like 20 different heroes got played, but not even one tick of cap. And meanwhile, Ardeont, they just knew what their game plan was. They executed in Blank. No options.
Yeah, like swapping heroes doesn't mean you actually get more. Like, it's only 6 members at a time, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, it doesn't give you some kind of a numbers advantage. But this is going to be that defense, and look, it just happened so quickly, really. They were trying to cut off some members of Ardeont, but Ardeont read it. They knew it was coming. They prepared for it and got a great headshot onto RQT, who is just a little too far forward, was looking for a right click to dislodge Ardeont. And then from here, it was just Ardeont getting aggressive. Again, Blank weren't able to pull back to that room in time where the Sombra had the health pack hacked up. They just did not get enough in enough time. They got completely red. Ardeont anticipated everything Blank do on Volskaya, basically.
And the other thing is, you know, just seeing the end of that replay was you had a couple of changes there. Huss then went on to Genji. I think Gunba was the only one that kept his ultimate, so he goes into B with an EMP ready to go, but that's all they had, and by the looks of things, it wasn't enough.
Yeah, there's what, 1 minute 45? That's a pretty incredible time for an attack to get both points. And then to fully hold on A as well. I mean, like, not even a third. That's just, I mean, it's beyond comprehension, right? The last time we saw something anywhere near as quick was actually in, I believe, the semifinals with Blank on Hanamura, or maybe it was actually the finals themselves. They set a record for capping out on that map.
AHQ,
yeah,
so.
yeah, right. It was versus AHQ in the semifinal. They set a record for capping at both points of Hanamura on a LAN environment, and still lost the map. You compare that to this, where you got that 145.
Did they still lose? I actually forgot the result.
They lost that Hanamura, if I'm not mistaken, or at least it went to time banking.
I think you're right, because I think afterwards. Look, this might not even have been in the semi-final, because I remember there was another match sometime afterwards where some other team was just about to break that record as well. So
that was in the promotion relegation.
So it was like, wait a minute, Blank just set the record, and then it was Ardeont as well. It was in fact Ardeont that nearly broke the record.
In the immediate next week, it was like just barely, like we're going to be blowing our minds.
Oh man!
But it didn't quite happen. But I mean, it may as well have, given how Ardeont performed just there. And that's the thing, is like, yeah, look, sometimes you do get these one-offs. You get these like amazingly fast attacks, and it happens every so often. A team caps in like just under or just over that kind of 2-minute mark, which is a pretty incredible thing to do in and of itself. But then the game still runs fairly close. The other team caps, things happen in overtime, time bank goes quite a bit of distance, and often that team does still win, but it's still quite hard fought. It is I can't even say it's rare, because it's never until now that we've seen it be literally that one-sided.
And I think the most shocking thing is when you look at Ilios, you look at how close Kings Row was as well. This isn't an expected result, or isn't an expected result, because again, it's new blank, but same assault rate. I mean,
yeah, that, as unfortunate as that is to say, but Blank do get to go somewhere. They are equally as happy to go as Ardeont are, and that place is Dorado. And if I'm not mistaken, this is where we ended up rounding out the Ardeont Flash Wolves series. So it did go the way of Ardeont. Flash Wolves just didn't quite get it over the line in some places where it was necessary, but I do expect Blank to be able to pull out something a little bit more than that.
And by the way, the second time in all of OPC Season 2 that we're actually seeing an escort from Ardeont.
Yes.
That's not, you don't even have much research to go off of. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're Blank going into this, you've seen Ardeont play Dorado one time. You've seen them play escort just one time. So, I mean, it's again, we talk about this being uncharted territory. This is the first time that Blank had been leading Ardeont. Ardeont had been behind after Ilios. The first time Kings Row got pushed to a draw. And now, the first time that Blank gets to go to escort for Ardeont as well.
Yeah, exactly. And this is going to be intense no matter how you slice it. The reality is, you've actually got to, excuse me, you've got to actually say that Blank being at match point by this time was very much a possibility. You look at how close Kings Row got. I mean, as much as it was Blank kind of on the back foot fighting uphill, they successfully fought it uphill. It was the time bank golden point that ended up falling through for them. And that's with them actually winning the initial control map itself on Ilios. So even that was just kind of this interesting thing. Like, you almost wonder if Golden Point was actually a whole best of 3 control, if maybe it would have been different. The reality is this has actually been doable for Blank. So often we've said it's doable for teams and they've just failed to get it over the line when it counts. That's still largely true for Blank. You've got to say though, Assault has to be an outlier here. This is a close, intense series, and I do still expect wins to be traded. I think we could very much see Blank tying this one up and going to a Game 5.
I do have to talk about confidence here as well, and certainly morale when you talk about confidence, because on the side of Blank, they just came off of a really heartbreaking Assault loss, kind of expected for Blank as well. If you are smart on the Blank side, that probably was the one game mode in the one map you can say, okay, we're not good here, maybe we expect to lose here. But everywhere else, you have to be confident enough to say you can win. Coming off a loss and then coming back into Dorado now, as good as you were on Ilios and Kings Row, needs to be where Blank mindset is.
Well, they get to run House on Pharaoh. That's
It helps, it helps.
And actually, we've seen House's Pharaoh on the Dorado defense. It's done some good work for them so far. So we'll have to see if it does that same amount of work for them here.
Blank Esports might as well be a Premier Series team now, because they're running a lot of pharmacy, like more pharmacy than any other team in OPC so far.
They've, I don't know, they finally got their medical license. That's all it's really been. Or like maybe it's their pilot's license. I don't know. Or maybe it's.
I feel Gumma's intelligence is wasted on a Mercy.
It's ouch, man, ouch. Now Mercy's really hard, man. Like, I mean, you got to hide.
Next patch.
Right. Well, in any case, Ardeont out the gate, already decent distance, but no deaths yet either side of the fight here. But Trill is going to be the first casualty in a little bit too deep, and Naki T going to follow him down. And unfortunately for Blank, that just makes the follow-up of this contest very, very hard with no kills coming through for themselves. You've just got to expect it's going to be slowly Ardeont closing in the chokehold, and indeed it is. Huru, the last on the point. They do maybe get one last chance to contest here, but I don't even know if you want to take it as Blank.
And this is part of the problem that you saw onto Ilios. If Trill goes down too early, you don't have enough follow damage on Huss's rockets. So yeah, Huss is alive, Gumba's alive for the most part. The other 4 members just go down. Doesn't matter that Huss is doing a lot of damage with rockets, because no one can get the kills.
Man, how does he go down to just Erster and Michelle? I mean, I get that Ardeont are good, but something's got to be going wrong as well for Blank. That means they don't get the amount of control over that high ground as they need here if they really want to start slowing up this cart.
And it's the only thing that gets slowed down is unfortunately Blank's defense, waiting for Trill to come back in now, waiting to set up positioning for the team, and Ardeont just get all this free push.
Erster, he's got this Dragon Blade as well, and we know exactly what that means. they can pick Gunba as well, which he's done pretty reliably so far. It takes the res off the table because that is about to be up. But Blank themselves looking to try and get aggressive now.
Just sneaks past Huwu.
Yeah, it goes straight past Huwu, gets right onto Gunba. It's even Republic who gets the kill credit. And now trying to get a little bit more as well. May get pressured out, but not closed out on. He's able to get away with his life as Trill goes down. There's just no one there to follow that one up. Huwu ends up closing it out, but they've already lost the fight. Gunba's got the res, but he died. He's only just regrouping now, and Huss is going to go down really late in it. Blank had lost that fight, and they opted to not retreat.
The thing about Ardeont here in terms of the team play is despite Erster getting no kills with the Dragon Blade, actually he did enough damage, and with the coordination and follow-up, Republic got the remaining kills, DM got the kill as well, so every Dragon Bladed target was picked up even if it wasn't by Erster.
That's a good pick on the Jeff though. That's the kind of mileage they need to be getting here. But Blank do need to get more off it. AU is just trying to run circles around DM and Republic, and it does work. But Ardeont had these ultimates. Gunba going down in the self-destruct means who is going to have to get another spicy 5k. No such luck. And these return kills just aren't coming in. They're desperately trying to get the follow-up, but DM is able to get out with his life. They demech Michelle, but they don't close out on Republic. And now Jeff will be able to re-enter with that Transcendence. Blank just don't have the tools to use here. With Gunba out of the fight, they only just get the res in. Instant convert onto DM, though, puts them into a numerical advantage. That's the kind of space they need. But Erster's still in it. And now with the Dragon Blade, wants to just close it out outright. They don't get the closeout on Republic, and there is that re-entry from Jeff with that Transcendence, as they're just actually going to get another round of kills thanks to Gunba's res.
This is just a lot of deaths now for Blank Esports if they're not too careful about it. Ardeont still have ultimates to play with. Blank do not. They're completely out. The gas tank is empty in Ardeont. They're still trucking on through.
Oh, excuse me, and Trill, even with all this healing, is just taking so much, at least staying alive this time around, and because of the maybe tunnel vision there from Ardeont, they don't quite put enough attention onto the members of Blank that respawned. Barely keeping Trill alive in that fight ended up being a big swing factor. Blank, off the back of that, are going to just barely be able to regroup.
That's quite a fortunate stabilization from the Blank side. They had enough members there despite that Ardeont still had pulse bomb from DM, just wasn't committed. You talk about the fact that, you know, Ardeont looked like they were ahead, and they certainly did look like they were ahead, but they couldn't secure the further kills. And Blank, they hold on. They had enough healing there. Now Gunba with the res as well. You could consider that they maybe even hold on a bit longer.
Maybe, just maybe. The thing you got to keep in mind is, of course, Gunba has died first so often. The target selection from Ardeont has been great. They know they need to take Gunba out of the fights, and there it goes again. Huss has to get tempo res, but he doesn't get the rocket barrage back. They have to commit more ultimates just to secure the fight, and they do get Jeff, but they lose Gunba. Close out on Erster is a good one for them, but Ardeont are kind of okay losing this one just because they preserved so many ultimates, whereas Blank had to commit almost everything they had just to get that closeout. Michelle even gets two.
Never mind saving ultimates
on the back end. I mean, yeah, never mind saving ultimates. Ardeont are now in a point where they can actually commit those ones that held on to. They close out on Trill as well. Blank just, they felt that they had the fight won already, but they didn't close it, didn't put it over the line. They sat on their laurels for a moment.
And in an interesting turn of a story here as well, the complete opposite happens. Last time was Blank in a dire situation, turning it around. This time, Ardeont losing members, but turning it around. And they're still committing, they're still getting kills. Jeff still hitting headshots, and Blank just gotta wait for more respawners now.
You lose Eat You Up before you get the chance to contest, and then you still go in for a contest. You're never gonna get the numbers. RQT was the first one on there. He's a Lucio. He's never gonna get a trade kill to make up for Eat You Up not being a factor there. Blank, you didn't have to go for that, but you did, and now you've given away more ult charge.
And 225 remaining now for Ardeont to continue pushing on through Earth. So you can see already waiting for a Dragon Blade opportunity. Blank, they just have to get the sound barrier available from RQT to counter this one out. That's probably going to be their only real option here. Huss even onto the May. Starting to now see lack of win conditions.
Erster straight onto the back line. That pulls out Huss's Icicle, which is now not available as the Dragon Blade does come out. And they just can't get any damage onto Erster with that Transcendence running. Keeping him nicely topped off. They only get the 2 for now, but they're going to get the stagger out on Gunba. No more staggers though. Blank will get one last chance to defend, but it's one last chance. RQT stalls up the payload, but also goes down really late. Now Huwu's still here doing the same. You've got to question Huwu being there. Now Eat You Up as well. RQT had already bought time. Now they just lose time.
They're certainly losing time in terms of waiting for respawn, so it's kind of buying extra time onto the cart, but then losing time waiting for a regroup of their entire team. All in all though, less than 130 remaining. Even if Ardeont cap on through, all things considered, Blank going to be somewhat pleased with the amount of time remaining on the map.
Yeah, somewhat is the way to put it. Blank though, still a little lean for ultimates. Huss, the first casualty of the fight. That's the thing, once you use that icicle, you can't use it twice. You've got to wait for that, and that's been the window every time. Who having to commit to self-destruct, but these kills have already come through. Who are going to be able to remech, needs to stall, needs to get something done, as does Trill. They just need kills. They just need to stabilize. They are making Ardeont fight for it hard though. But again, the transcendence from Jeff is there. Gunba only just coming in with his own tops off Trill, but they need to convert off it. They need to make something happen in that space. EduUp is trying to do just that, but they lose Huss again on the mate. Every single time EduUp, he's having to fight an uphill battle alone as he and Trill just barely able to get a few with that sound barrier on, and they may have just maybe held it off for now.
This is an important place to hold it off because actually you're heading into the overtime. So Ardeont, if they do push it through, it's very likely they don't push it through with any time remaining. So Blank, even if they lose this, now they feel much better about it. You would have felt good at 130, you feel much better at 0.
You need the Blizzard from Huss. That is now the only justification for sticking on the May, given how little work it has done so far. And you wouldn't want to swap off it now that you're just 15% away from that ultimate.
You need a bit to charge up as well, which means he needs to hit a lot of those right clicks. Using the cryo freeze quite early now means he's not going to have it later to save his own life.
Okay, now he's going to have to be able to commit it, and there it goes, looking to get on top of those members. They do get Michelle, means he commits the self-destruct, but they catch Erster, trade it for Huss. Need to get more, losing Huru in the mix as well. No self-destruct to save him. They need to get these kills, and they're not. And Jeff, if he doesn't die, will be able to get a Transcendence. Gunba able to get DM at least, and maybe that's enough to stabilize, given that the cart isn't there just yet. They get some respawns. Gunba has the Transcendence, but they've got to touch the point. It's got to be EduUp who does it. No one's there. Oh, nick of time. Just barely gets onto it. Less than a minute to go. Trying to duck and weave on it. Gunba's got to get in with his Transcendence. Got to save these members. Needs to top off Huss. The self-destruct in from Huru's got to get something done. Gets Erster. That is a something. They need to get more. Sound barrier now out of Animo. Keeps Ardeont in the fight. Blank still looking to get the close outs. Still had the Primal Rage, but that's all they've got left. But they've got Michelle's mech. They're looking to get Jeff. They close it out almost. They get DM instead. And now Jeff goes down. And now Republic goes down. And now Erster's only just rejoining the fight. And Blank on the back foot, but never down, never out, and just barely holding Ardeont shy of C.
Just right at the end as well. That's actually a very difficult loss for Ardeont. They expected themselves to cap out. They look so dominant in the majority of those fights there, but just a couple of very important turnarounds from Blank right at the moments they needed it to. The Blizzard from Huss wasn't super effective, but it did just give them a little bit more space to move. The biggest factor was the fact that Ursa went down to a headshot from Gunba mid-Dragon Blade. He couldn't get any kills, couldn't get any damage done on his ultimate. That had to be a bit of a disappointing ultimate now from the Ardeont side. Then the respawn is Ursa onto Soldier, dies again to Huru's self-destruct. So at every point, right at the end, Blank just found little bits of openings that they exploited.
Just barely, and now actually with that, what Blank have done is put themselves in a winnable position. Look, it is as good as capped, but the interesting thing is, look, if it's going to get that close to capped, you'd actually be pleased that it wasn't the full cap, right? I mean, a cap in overtime could have still meant it was, you know, uphill for Blank. It's still uphill in a sense. They've got to get it that far, but all they've got to do is get it that far, and then they actually win the map. There's no time bank. There's no nothing. There's no golden point. They just out and out win and tie up the series and take it to game 5.
So A's got to be the point of contention here because B and C was where Blank were able to get some good holds on. Specifically C of all things. B was still kind of tricky. Still 50-50 for both teams, but Ardeont had a really good showing on A. Just completely rolled on through. The cart just camped out in no time. So for Blank, if they can get a really nice smooth transition into A as well, that's what they're going to be looking for here. Otherwise, they're risking a huge loss of time going to B and C, and they may not finish the map at all.
Just maybe. They need that high momentum gameplay in this. This is going to be their plan for it, looking to run a triple DPS, keeping that pharmacy on. No, Trill changing off to the Winston. The last moment there, but keeping the pharmacy.
On the attack as well, they use this on the defense, so what you need to see here is, can you keep Trill alive? Can you keep your tanks available to follow up on the damage of Huss? Because that's been the missing ingredient of this pharmacy composition so far.
And remember, every time Gunba is on Huss, he's not on Trill, which means Trill has to be extra careful on those dives. But this is good pressure from Blank. No one from Ardeont going down, but Ardeont also don't get any early kills, means Blank do just get to move the payload.
And not as and he's not just not on Trill, he's not on anybody else on the team either. So Huss is just getting solo heals, and the rest of Blank have to rely on RQT. This is when Ardeont get aggressive though.
Yeah, but they lose Eat You Up very early in it. Good trade onto Erster, but Trill's super low. And this is exactly that situation. They need to keep him alive in this, and DM is going to work overtime to make that not be a possibility as they close out on RQT. Now, looking to just get aggressive, close out on Trill, and these kills just aren't quite coming through for Blank. How often does this happen, where these members of Ardeont are low, and the team just tunnel visions on trying to kill them, and just don't quite get it, and die?
This is a very bad place to get stopped up for Blank as well, because the Kant is still not even pushed through the archway. In fact, fight's still moving on.
Yeah,
Blank haven't given this up just yet.
Eat You Up was able to get one as Blank were kind of losing, and then got another just as Blank re-entered. Now actually Ardeont have to commit ultimates to stay in this one. IQT able to commit one of his own, Erster getting one with the Dragon Blade. One comes out from the Pulse Bomb as well. That is good enough conversion to create a stabilization, given that Gunba's still just shy of the res, and you've got to imagine what if that had been available, but it's not. Now Blank stopped up again.
It's already more than 1 minute 30 off the clock. Talk about the fact that Blank need a good A. Even if Blank cap out A now, they're going to really struggle to move on through B and C. They just lack the time. Ardeont already struggled across B and C. You can expect that Blank will struggle even more.
Yeah, we're looking at what will almost be a guaranteed overtime situation as far as capping C goes, unless something crazy happens on B. Blank do have these resources to use, though. They need to get that snowball. This is a good wraparound from Huss, looking to find the angle on the rocket barrage. There goes the commit now, trying to find something, finds Erster, looking to get Jeff, tempo res onto RQT. Sound barrier to save the rest of these members. Now Blank, it's going to be an expensive one if it's still a fight win for them, but they get the kill on Jeff. They convert again onto Animo here. This is the sort of fight they need. Republic and Michelle still have ultimates. They still want to commit them because they know that this buys time for another contest later on A, but no one dies to the self-destruct. They still convert some good kills through. Blank able to recharge some ultimates. Expensive, but they've got it going.
And they put Ardeont on the back foot now, who are still waiting for a couple of respawners. You do expect Ardeont to come in for a last-minute contest, and certainly that will be very worth it, especially with Erster picking up the first kill.
An instant conversion on the res. No res from Gunba. They do actually kill Erster as he commits the Dragon Blade, which is actually pretty huge, to be honest. He didn't even need to commit it in the first place, but it is the stuff up once again, and Blank are going to have to find another fight win just to cap A.
Blank will take any sort of advantages they can get. They'll take any small victories here just to cap it over to A. You're already nearly into the overtime, and we're not even finished on this first cap yet. This is a really difficult and really sudden place for Blank to get stopped up. Kind of composition change now. Huss into Doomfist, Gunba onto the Zenyatta as well. Can they make this work? Because you can't get an ultimate here.
Oh, Huss instantly dropping to Erster with the Swift Strike, and Blank just looking even worse for wear now. No response kills just yet. They're getting absolutely routed every single time here.
The worst part has to be that because it was a quite sudden change compositionally, Huss is not going to get an ultimate. He's changed onto another hero now as well. Gunba's definitely not going to hit the Transcendence on time, so you have to wait for a really long engage. RQT with a sound barrier, maybe keeping Gunba alive long enough to then go into a Transcendence later. Eat You Up and Huss both need to get a lot of kills here, and both the tanks, Trill and Huru, need to live.
The payload's moved almost all the way back now. Ardeont could once again maybe even get 2 whole fights. Wow, stick on Huss. DM doesn't get traded.
That's the damage gone.
They're getting the kills. What has gone wrong for Blank here? They looked so good on the first 2, but the second 2 are just coming up so one-sided. It is all Ardeont all day long at the end there, and that at the end is when it counts the most. And Ardeont over time ticking down. Blank won't even get A. They may have held off Ardeont just shy of C. They may have created the opportunity to win, but they did not follow through on it. They did not execute on it. They did not even cap A, and it is going to be Ardeont driving it home 3-1.
And the history and the legacy of Ardeont does continue so far in OPC Season 2. You thought maybe the upset could happen tonight, maybe Blank turn around. The first 2 maps, as you said, look so great for them, but after a break, it just all falls apart.
So here's the thing you do at least have to acknowledge, though. For the second time this tournament, Ardeont dropped another map. It was against a team that really was a no-contest team up until now, and they nearly dropped 2, make no mistake. That's what Ardeont carry now into playoffs. That is going to be the leaving legacy here, I suppose, between these 2 teams. And when you also factor in the close performance that AHQ had against them, They've still got to play Flash Wolves as well tomorrow, which you can only expect will be an even closer series than either the Blank or the AHQ ones. You've really got to start going, look, Ardeont, they will make playoffs here. That can't be contested anymore. They look good enough to get through the semis, but heck, maybe they don't even get out of semis. And if they do they not win that final? After all that hard work, after leading the table for the entire tournament, do they just fall short of the mark?
It'll be interesting to see, but now this match certainly is over. 3-1 the final score, Ardeont to Blank. Still a very good map win that Blank get, and what they do get with this map win is, should there be a tiebreaker at the end of the day in terms of map score where it does really count, they got one additional map against a team that no one else really does have. Let's go into the replays now.
And this is really where things started to go just a little sour for Blank, unfortunately. They had had a really rough time early on B, just whiffed a couple of moments, lost Trill far too early in situations where really they shouldn't have. And so many times Ardeont were just getting kills with like almost nothing. They'd just get one kill here and one kill there and commit maybe one ultimate, maybe two. And then Blank starts to get dollar bills in their eyes, right? They demech Michelle, but they lose Trill. They decide, okay, we're going to go ahead and commit for this anyway. They've got Gunba coming in with the raise, they commit it. They get the catch onto DM. They start getting some other kills over the line. But you got to look at what's happening here. Trade kills are still coming through. Blank have committed every single resource they have. Ardeont have committed a lot too, but they're still getting trade kills. They're still getting a lot of mileage, and they've still got some tools here. And then it just starts to become disaster. Even off this stabilization, Ardeont can instantly recommit, and they still just seem to consistently get kills for nothing.
When you look at the start of the replay as well, part of the issue that has plagued Blank across all of B was Gunba getting picked up quite early, not having the chance to use resurrections and opportunities where they do. This is about the time in the replay now where Blank are able to stabilize and they are able to get those pickouts. They didn't give this defense up, and that's really important. So despite this being a long engage, it was Blank that eventually comes out on top, but so much of it was just such a struggle. The double res in the middle did help Blank somewhat, and it was really rare to see good damage and good kills picked off of Huss's rockets, and only at the end there did you see a couple kills that Huss got, but mostly in the middle. Because so many people were dead, Huss on his own wasn't good enough.
And the thing there as well is, I mean, that res maybe wouldn't have been enough if that pick on DM hadn't come through as well. But the thing is, it still got capped from there. Now you've got to look at the other side of the situation where Blank spent so long, even just getting the count to this point, 2 minutes, half their time gone before this fight breaks out. And this is with the rocket barrage as well. So Huss goes in, looks for the angle, and all of these members of Ardeont, they know it's coming, right? They've realized Huss isn't in the fight, so they back around to the other side. It starts going well for Blank. They get these kills through, but look at what they've committed, and look at how little has been committed out of Ardeont by comparison. They're about to get the pulse bomb. They've still got the tank ultimates. They've got all the stall tools, and they've got what they need to convert off them as well. They're willing to throw these into the mix here to get the last ultimate out of Huwu. They get a late pick onto Gunba, and then they can get the recontest almost instantly after the respawns come in.
And all those small picks really work out for Ardeont at the end of the day because they killed Gunba on the Mercy. That puts Huss in a bad situation. Ursa picks him up. Edom goes down right after that. So, you know, these kind of just snowball picks. A lot of good conversions by the Ardeont side, and that was the most distance that Blank got on this entire A push. After that, you had a situation when Ardeont said, we're going to go for the final contest. Straight away, Ursa gets a kill, because meanwhile, Gumba's he's still respawning.
Yeah. And the thing is, Blank kind of fell victim to something that's just really a lot of how Ardeont play. Look, Ardeont are much faster with their turnaround times than any of the other teams in this tournament. That's just been one of the things they have ahead of the pack. Other teams have had to get faster, had to get better. I would say, based off today, actually, Blank have probably come closest to Ardeont all told. Flash Wolves do get a lot quicker these days than they used to. It's still generally a bit more of a slow setup team, and that's the thing. In that brief window there, in that brief moment before Ardeont came in for the recontest, Blank played great if they were playing against any other team in this tournament. They didn't respect the quickness of the turnaround. They weren't ready for Ardeont when they came in, and it's because Ardeont are just so much quicker, and that's the thing. You can do all the work, you can do all the research, you can play it well in the moment, but the moment you forget that this is Ardeont and this is how they play, they are going to get the better of you. You cannot slip up, not even once.
And Volskyri's side as well, when you look at the other three maps, including Dorado, the fact that Blank got a full hold on C, didn't let the camp go through, that's still something that you can be proud of. It's actually a pretty decent deal for Blank, but looking at Blank's form now, if that was Blank versus Flash Wolves yesterday, you would have had a much more competitive series. Difficult to say who would have won that one, but it certainly wouldn't have been a 3-0 sweep by Flash Wolves because this is the kind of Blank that you've been waiting all OPC season to.
And that's the thing, if you are Blank, you've got to kind of wish you'd been able to pull off this level of performance against Flash Wolves yesterday. Look, you didn't, the past is in the past, but you pulled it off today. You didn't pick up the win, but you got that second map win. I'll say it once and I'll say it again. I'm going to call Assault an outlier here. This has been the most competitive series anyone has had against Ardeont. And that even includes yesterday's match with AHQ, which before that had been the most competitive series. That's purely because they got the map win and nearly got the second one as well. Player of the game there. Gonna go to Animo on the Lucio. But the thing I kind of want to wrap that up in a bundle with is this is now the Blank that minimum will be going into playoffs. They'll be looking to push that standard even further as well. They will work overtime to take out whoever they come up against in their semi-final, which could well be Ardeont. They haven't quite made it into that playoffs yet, but they're looking good enough to do it. If they can overcome AHQ tomorrow, then they're all but secure. And if they can push it beyond what we saw today, this could actually be a team that makes grand finals again.
Yeah, and that would be, Blank able to get that top 2 position, which is so coveted for this team. After finishing second in last season, they are certainly looking for at least second again. But before we move along, let's go and have a bit of a chat with Erster and Animo from the winning team.
안녕하세요. 저는 아디언트의 서브 딜러를 맡고 있는 정준 어스터입니다.
안녕하세요. 저는 아디언트의 메인 힐러를 맡고 있는 정태성입니다.
这位是就是Ardeont的主输出手，
This is Ardeont's main DPS player Erster
主辅助
and
辅助的
main
然后
healer
他叫做
support player Animo.
好的，因为其实今天第一场比赛的时候，现场是非常欢呼的，然后觉得有点替他们捏一把冷汗。他们在伊利欧斯那一场比赛的时候是被 Blank 拿下了一个大分。
Blank
那可以请他说明一下当时的状况吗？
How do you feel about the way you played?
저희가 원래 위도도 잘 다루고 파르시 대처도 되게 잘했었는데 요즘에 그 파르시 대처가 잘 안 되는 것 같아요.
他们就是本来就是对于双飞阵啊。
So we went up against the pharmacy, and that was well played by Blank. And it feels like we're a little bit unprepared against pharmacy.
是的，那我有注意到 Esther 的原氏其实常常替团队打出了破口，所以团队的战術主要是依赖他吗？
Genji right now. Is your team quite reliant on you to make the plays?
겐지가 항상 첫 번째로 나가서
제가 제일 잘하는 영웅이기도 하고 그 포커싱 조합일 땐 겐지가 꼭 필요해가지고 딸피 처리할 때 주로 씁니다.
因为这是他原氏是他最主要就是最
So
会的角
Genji's
色，
my main hero.
这是他最主要最会的角色，所以他就是在就是不管在那个就使用方面上啊，就是
So it doesn't matter what situation it is.
他才会常常这样。
It's something that I generally pull out.
刚刚小熊有问到说，就是接连2天在 EO4张地图，然后有机会进入到前4强的队伍 ，AHQ Blank， 然后都有选择 EO4双飞的套路来进行这个针对。那我想问一下这个阿拉莫选手，然后对这个地方的话，有没有想一个特別的想法
Have you maybe formulated some plans against pharmacy on Ilios now?
한 1점 뺏겼는데 혹시 이에 대해서 생각이 어떠신지?
아까 어스터 말한 대로 파르시 대처가 안 되는 것 같아요. 그래서 파르시 상대를 많이 해봐야 될 것 같아요. 연습할 때.
他说就是跟刚刚 Erster 讲的一样，
So
就是他们
same
的
as
双飞阵
Erster.
就是感觉好像就是应变好像还就是
Feels
还
like
不太够，
we're
就是
still
应付
not
太来
practiced
所以他
enough
觉得
against
我们应该再
pharmacy.
练习多一点
We still need
就是对于
to
双飞
we
阵
still need to
打破
figure out
这个
how to
针对
best
这
deal
个
with
问题的
pharmacy.
话，我想在韩国的训练时间以
So-
及在台湾的训练时间以及坐骑上面的时间可能会不太一样。那
So
我
it
想要
feels like there's maybe a
问
difference
帮大
between
家问一
practice
下，
in
就
Korea
是
and
近
Taiwan.
期他们来到台湾组队的
So
时
now
间
that
是
you're
比
in
较短的
Taiwan,
那他们的正常他们在台湾的一些训练时间到底是多长？
So how much practice do you get in
일단
Taiwan,
저희
and what's the
하루
quality of
일과는
practice here?
아침 12시에 깨고 12시부터 2시까지는 밥 먹고 청소하는 시간 가지고 연습 시간은 2시부터 12시까지로 정해놨어요.
他说他们就是一天的行程啊，大概就是5、6日就打比赛嘛，
So
然后星期一休息
We
然后
rest on
星期
Mondays,
2到
play
4
matches
呢就是
on
早上
weekends.
就中午12点才醒，然后中午12点醒了之后
wake up at usually midday.
12点到2点之间就是打扫房间啊，然后吃饭
Spend between midday
然
to
后接下来
2 to have
2点到
food
晚
and
上
maybe
12
clean up in the
点
house.
就是不断的
And
练
then
习，
from
不断
then
地
on,
打戏这样子。
all the way
再
into
者
the
是
night
最
we're
后一个
practicing.
问题是，他们已经以第1名的姿态进入到季后赛，那在
So
他
now
们
you're the
心
first
中，
team going to
全
playoffs.
体的队员有没有设定一个假想敌？
I think the final part of this is how you, what is your general
이번에
feeling
플레이오프
going
때
into playoffs now as number one team?
제일 약간 붙고 싶은 팀이나 가상적 같은 거. 네, 약간 가상 팀.
붙고 싶은 팀이요?
네네네.
플래시 로보즈랑 제일 붙고 싶어요.
就是还是一样是闪电狼。
OK
We
OK。
still,
这边想知道 Esther
I
的看
think
法，
Flash
有
Wolves
没有
is
不一样
still
的？
our biggest challenge right now.
씨의 생각은 좀 다르시나요?
저는 AHQ.
他说他最想跟 AH。
And Ursa says,
一边是
I
AHQ
really
一边
want
是
to
闪
play
电狼
against
哎
AHQ.
哇
OK
那不知道最后结果会是如何，但今天还是恭喜他们获得了这场比赛胜利。那我们休息一下，稍后第2个对战之后
There
马
it
上就
is.
要来
A
了。
couple of comments there from both Ursta and Animo after their 3-1 victory over Blank. Still very much looking into playoffs and still feeling good and otherwise just looking forward to playing against Flash Wolves and HQ.
And I think rightfully so. Look, they're going to get there, and it's actually not unlikely that they come up against AHQ. But of course, AHQ's ability to qualify is down to 2 things that are still to come. First will be their match against Hong Kong Attitude today, and then after that, they still have a match against Blank tomorrow. But now Blank can kind of sit back and prepare for that one.
Oh, one match rather out of the way now. The next one coming up is going to be Mega taking on the Flash Wolves in the second match of the day in week 6, day number 2. So that's all going to happen right after this break.